What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Awesomeo.com NBA Deeper Dive presented by Jock Market. I'm Dave Loughran. Along with me, as always, Adam Sherritt, Ship My Money, DFS. Hit me up at Laffy_D, LOUGHY_D. Quick note here before we get started from our producer, Jordan Klein, pointing out that YouTube's been weird today. Not just for us, but you're saying other spots, the other streams you've seen, correct? Doing his reconnaissance missions, that an error message might pop up. And in the event that it does, the stream's not dead. Just refresh. Is that accurate, Jordan? Okay, that's accurate. Just so you know. I know you have people freaking out in chat. It's not on us this time if it happened. Maybe it is, but we'll just assume it is. And anyway, what's going on, man?
How's it going? Kind of tripped out because I pulled up the YouTube stream right now, and the ad that was playing when I pulled it up was for the meal delivery service that me and Josh were talking about for like 20 minutes after our show earlier.
Which one?
Factor.
I never even heard of it.
Neither had I until Josh told me about it. But yeah, we were talking about it, and then like I searched it, and that's probably why I just got an ad for them. But wasn't expecting that when I pulled up.
No, that's definitely why you got an ad for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is it like a Postmates or a Grubhub or something?
No, it's like prepared food delivery, you know, like shit.
I would like to try that.
Yeah, so I've done it. That's what Josh and I are talking about. Like, I've done it with HelloFresh, but the problem with that is like when I've been on my computer for 12 hours, I still don't want to go cook like an actual meal.
Dude, HelloFresh, let me just say, and you know, the food is delicious. It's phenomenal. The firecracker meatballs, there's so many good things. But you better set aside some time in your day. And if you're like me and you're just not good at that stuff, like my wife could cook one of those in 30 minutes. For me, the kitchen's a disgrace. It takes me a good hour.
Right. Yeah. Like when I do something like that, one, it takes me forever to do it. Two, it takes me an hour to clean up after because I used every dish that I own. And yeah, it got to the point like at the end where I'd get the box and I wouldn't even open it. I'd just end up like throwing the whole box away because like I don't feel like dealing with that shit after I spend like 10 hours doing DFS stuff.
We've scrapped some of them too, and you feel bad. You don't like throwing that out.
Right.
You know what I mean? But at the same time, it's like, I'm just going to order some pizza.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm going to just go to the bar and not cook for myself.
But if you have time or someone that wants to cook it for you, I highly recommend HelloFresh. The food is excellent. Anyway, so only if your real ad reads were that good. Not sure what Josh is talking about. However, my ad reads are fantastic.
I think he was talking to me.
Oh, okay. You don't do ad reads.
No, but I did my first solo video today. So I did the quick.
Oh, nice. How'd it go?
I mean, it's whatever. It'll get better as I get used to talking like, doing solo stuff, but
it's a lot different, isn't it?
Yeah. Like I'd done them way back in the day when I first started, like when Eric Bimefor was employing, but not paying me. I would do like solo stuff but I mean, that was like 5-6 years ago, but yeah, it feels weird, but the No House Advantage was sponsoring that, and my quick read went about as you would expect me reading that to go.
All right, well, get better. I'm gonna have to go watch. I'm sure it's good. It's odd talking to yourself though. When I was doing serious shows during COVID, 2-hour shows with no sports going on by myself solo, that was the least fun I've ever had doing anything like this.
Yeah, I can imagine that would be absolutely awful.
Brutal. Yeah, talking about like I don't know, ESPN the Ocho type shit, and like bringing people on to talk about SmackDown or whatever. That stupid WWE that people still pay attention to. Apparently, it's still huge, and I'm going to get hate for this in chat because a lot of grown men still watch that and thoroughly enjoy it.
Yeah, it shows up on my timeline from time to time, and I'm always confused that people still pay attention.
The best thing about it was Pat McAfee doing some of that, like the broadcasting stuff in the booth. That was great. But anyway, hit that thumbs up if you haven't done so yet. Yes, Larry and everybody else, you're right. Combat the YouTube overlords. They're coming for us, man. They've been coming for us. We got to feed that algorithm, keep it happy. And it helps us out a ton. If you like this content, it really only takes a second in all seriousness. If you're on your phone, you can click out of the chat, hit that thumbs up, click right back into the chat. However you do it, make it happen one time. That's all you got to do. And if you hate this show, well, you can hit thumbs down. We won't see it anymore. I used to say hit the thumbs down twice, but that's out the window. So hit the thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Help us get to 70K. And last thing, if you want to join, you want to become a team member here at Awesemo on the YouTubes, hit that join now down below the thumbs up. Get the custom emojis, the badges, the shout outs, the free super chat each month. And we'll always prioritize your questions along with all of our premium Discord members. All right,
Josh clarified he was talking to you, not me.
Oh, so he's just wrong. That's okay. I mean, it's absolutely silly that anybody could come at my reads. Now, I don't think anyone does better reads than I do, but that's all right. 3 games to talk about. First thing to just get out of the way first, and we're going to dive deep into this. How much of a shit show is Brooklyn right now, especially not having any idea what we've got with Kevin Durant? At least we'll know before lock, being that it's a 7:30 game.
Hopefully we'll know before lock. We should know before
like
lock.
With the Embiid stuff yesterday?
Yeah,
well,
yeah.
That was a little different because he wasn't even questionable.
Right. But yeah, I mean, we should know probably with the 6:30 injury report. But yeah, they're a nightmare right now because the thing that makes them really tough, and you and I were talking about this before the show, is for one, there's 2 guys that have played like less than 15 minutes all season long, and they're on Sharp and Kessler Edwards. David Duke has not played much. I don't really have any idea what like the minutes cap would be on Blake Griffin at this point. I don't know exactly how many minutes Nick Claxton can play. So not only do you have a shorthanded team where you're trying to piece together a rotation that you haven't seen at any point this year, but you're kind of also just like throwing out imaginary numbers that feel like the right amount for guys to not go over. So it's a really tough spot to project, I think.
Yeah, it really is. I think ultimately, if Kevin Durant's out, then everything changes even more than it already has. They'd have 9 active players. That's not good. And a few of them are, you know what, let's jump into this. We'll start with Brooklyn in this game. Usually I start with a road team. Who cares? Toronto on the road against Brooklyn, they're what? They're still 5-point dogs. That could swing dramatically if and will swing if Kevin Durant's out, coming off that 51-point performance, highest scoring performance of the season by anybody. But with Brooklyn, they have players that are straight creative players. I mean, they have a David Duke, which is odd in its own right, Adam.
Yeah, it is. Chat's already been going on about that.
About what? David Duke?
Yeah.
Failed 1988 presidential candidate. That's what everyone knows him for, right?
Yeah, exactly. That and nothing else.
Oh, I don't know. I just know him as a presidential candidate. I didn't vote for him. I was one. Wouldn't have anyway. Don't worry. Anyway, they've got guys that you probably don't know exist. Like not you personally, but a lot of people. Kessler Edwards, Day'Ron Sharpe, David Duke. And the problem is when people see Junior, they get to thinking, well, without seeing a picture, obviously, but
I told you before the show, and because I played a decent amount of college basketball last year, and his name would pop up, and I was like, there is no way. But like, I had to go, Google and search and see if there was a connection. That there's not. But yeah, that easily the first thing I did when he showed up in my player pool in college basketball.
For sure. Yes, I'm kidding, Ryan. Do you think I would know he was a failed presidential candidate from 1988 and not know he was a member of the KKK? Come on. But anyway, let's talk about this one. Let's start at the top. Assuming Kevin Durant is in, James Harden good to go, no issues there as far as we know. But as a recap here, LaMarcus Aldridge is out. Joe Harris is out for an extended period of time. James Johnson, DeAndre Bembry, Paul Millsap, all of them out. I'll throw Javon Carter into the mix as well. He's out too. So that's what we're working with tonight with the Brooklyn Nets.
Yeah, so it's basically if Durant is in, Durant and Harden both look like good options. There's only so many spots you can pay up for tonight. There's plenty of value to be had. The raw points are useful, so they'll both look really good. If Durant sits, Harden just becomes the clear number one option. He kind of disappointed in the game against Houston the other day with Durant out, but since last year he's around the 1.7 DraftKings points per minute guy without Durant or Irving on the floor. He's 11-2 on DraftKings. He's like 10-4 on FanDuel. It would be really difficult to get away from him if Durant is out. Yeah,
I think so. I don't know how you would or how you would want to. Not to mention, if you look at the top price players on the slate, and if I could add some context to this, Adam, you have Steph Curry, who I have been taking some shots on Curry recently, just low owned in tournaments, and just every time Jokic goes for 80 and Curry produces middling numbers. That isn't to say you can't get there today, and we'll talk about that. But you have if you have no Durant, you'd have Curry, and then you'd have Harden, and then a big step down, you've got guys like Lillard and Randall. So you don't really even have that much competition from on a per minute basis or just on an expected fantasy points basis if Kevin Durant sits.
Yeah, exactly. Like if Durant is in, Durant, Harden, and Curry are all pretty close in terms of points per minute, 1.4 to 1.5 fantasy points per minute for the season. But if Durant is out, Harden just jumps up to 1.7, which is like Giannis territory, not quite Jokic territory, but neither of those guys are on this slate. So it just makes him the clear number one.
All right. So if both, just to back up for a second, if both of them are in, where do you prioritize them on a 3-game slate?
I think ownership plays a really big role there. In the early cash lineup I made right before the show, James Harden got in on DraftKings. He was just, a little bit cheaper than Durant. I think he projects a little bit lower, but a little bit less expensive. But in tournaments, I think the ownership would play a really big role. This morning, you could get Steph Curry at about half the ownership of James Harden and Durant. Right now, we have Harden at 32%. Did we project Durant out? We have Durant at 18%. We have Steph at 17. So same thing. Basically, if Durant were to play and this ownership were to hold, like I think if Durant were ruled in, the ownership probably increases on Durant and comes down on Harden, but that's beside the point. If the ownership were to look like this, I think Curry would end up looking really good in tournaments because basically these guys all, if Durant is in, project within a point of each other, give or take. And so it's really a situation where you can have your preferences, but you have to understand that in a 1-game sample size, these guys are all functionally the same and their ceilings are all massive. They all project really well. So I would just want the lowest owned one if Durant is in. If Durant is out, it kind of just becomes Harden is the clear favorite.
Right. There's just very little way that you want to get away from that. So with Aldridge, Bembry, Johnson, Millsap, Carter, all of them out, let's break this rotation down. This is where we're going to spend a decent amount of this show and where we probably should.
Right. So starting in the front court, we know Aldridge is out. Nick Claxton played about 23 minutes off the bench last game. He barely played in the first half, but he played the entire fourth quarter plus like the final half or so of the third quarter. So the reason I think that's important is that it tells you that he can physically play 23 to 24 minutes. There's a good chance he can play a little bit more than that, especially because he played that in one really long stretch of like 15 or 16 straight minutes. So seems like conditioning wasn't really an issue, and it's likely you can get 26 plus minutes from Claxton here. If Durant's in, I think expecting around 26 minutes from Claxton makes sense. If Durant's out, I think you could bump it up, 28 to 30. Blake Griffin was sort of in the rotation last game. He played 9 minutes in the first half, didn't play at all in the second half. The thing that's interesting is that he actually played a little bit alongside Claxton in the first half. He played a lot alongside Aldridge. So that suggests to me that you could certainly have a rotation where if Durant is in, Claxton starts at center, Griffin backs him up, but then also maybe plays a little bit alongside him. If Durant is out, I think one possibility is that Claxton starts and Sharp backs him up at the 5, and then that you get Blake Griffin playing a bunch of minutes at the 4, or at least as many as he can, 24, 26, something like that. So I think that's a possibility if Durant is out, since we also know that James Johnson is out.
So, Jordan, if you see people intentionally just spraying fake news in here, you honestly just get rid of them. Get rid of them. It's ridiculous. Kevin Durant, unless there's something that I have missed entirely, I don't see anything about Kevin Durant being out at this point. So if we hear about it, we will certainly let you know. And just come on, have some respect for the people in this room. There's no need to do that nonsense. So how many minutes are we getting from Blake tonight?
It's an excellent question.
If you had to guess, assuming Durant's in.
Yeah, if Durant's in, my guess would be like 22. I think it could be like 18 to 22. 22 seems reasonable. You could potentially get like a 20. You could get like 26 for Claxton, 22 at center for Griffin, or you could get 26 at center for Claxton, like 8 to Sharp, and then Griffin playing the 4 and the 5. There's a couple of different ways that could go, but I think 22 seems reasonable. If Durant's out, then I think the number is kind of like how many can he physically play. I would probably go from like 22 to 24 or 26. I don't want to get too carried away though, since he hasn't been in the rotation recently.
That's the problem. I mean, would you not be playing Blake over some of these? Like, I don't know, man. It's so hard to think that even though he hasn't been in the rotation, that you wouldn't be playing him over some of these creative players at the far back of the rotation. That's what I don't know.
Yeah, like I think he can get like upper 20s. It's just I don't like if we had been seeing him play 30 minutes a night for the last 2 weeks, I would say okay, Blake probably plays 36 here without a problem. I don't know what kind of condition he's in. I don't know how he's doing physically. So I think he's 3,400 on DraftKings. So even if you give him like 26 or 28 minutes if Durant's out, he's still going to look like a good value.
So when it comes to Claxton, you and I talked about this before the show started. He's played since returning, right? He returned. He played 3 minutes in his return. He was out for a while, right? And then played 3 minutes, 21, 16, 17, 23. So he's gotten up to 23 in that last game. Is it you're giving him what, around 26 right now?
Yeah, I have 26. Alex has 28.
28?
I think either of those are reasonable.
That range sounds reasonable to me. Once you get up to the 30 plus, it starts to scare me a little bit, because even if you have 9 players, let's just assume that Durant is out. Even if you have 9, you can still keep him from playing 35 minutes. Like, it's not like he'd have to play that many minutes.
Yeah, and one thing that I mentioned this morning is just based on the rotations that we've seen from the Nets in general, I expect them to use every player they have available. I don't think this is likely to be a Charlotte spot where they have 10 active bodies, but they only play 8. They've been running 11-man rotations pretty consistently. At most, they only have 10 guys tonight. But so that's why I think that it's likely you at least get, 6 minutes for Sharp, 6 minutes for Edwards, to kind of keep the Claxton Griffin type guys from getting like too many minutes. But so I think, if Durant's out, I think you're getting a 9-man rotation. If Durant is in, I think you're getting a 10-man rotation.
All right. So here's the toughest question of the night. How do you prioritize the Brooklyn Nets right now?
I want to know who's starting in place of Bembry. My guess is Bruce Brown, in which case I think it's likely that you would get 30 to 32 minutes from Brown. You probably get 28 to 30 from Cam Thomas. If it were to be Cam Thomas, like if they just throw him into the starting lineup, I think that would signal that he could play more minutes. But assuming it's Bruce Brown, if Durant's in, the only real priority I have, I think, is Claxton. Like I'm still mixing in guys like Brown, like
Absolutely.
Cameron Thomas, like Blake Griffin, certainly mixing in Harden and Durant, no problem. But the only guy that really stands out as just kind of a for lack of a better word, can't miss value would be Claxton. It's when you take Durant out, Harden is absolutely a priority. Claxton's an even bigger priority. Blake looks a lot better. Brown looks a lot better. Thomas looks a lot better. So the team as a whole kind of just, gets pulled up. But I think it's kind of safe to, like, if Durant gets pulled out, or if Durant gets ruled out, it's kind of safe to lean towards the guys that have been in the rotation anyway. Like could someone like David Duke or Kessler Edwards, step up and do something unexpected and play really, really well? Sure. But your best bet is to just assume Cam Thomas is going to play a lot. Bruce Brown's going to play a lot and produce at a higher level. Patty Mills is kind of the only guy out of the main pieces that I sort of have trouble getting to anyway, because he's priced up to 5,400. But even him, if Durant's
playing a
out,
lot of minutes though, with decent usage with those guys in the rotation.
Right. Like he probably plays 36 minutes if Durant's out, and probably like 10 of those minutes come without Harden on the floor, which means Mills is running the show. So even he would be fine, but he's still at a less appealing price point than somebody like Thomas or Brown.
Yeah. I think ultimately when you're taking someone like Kevin Durant off of the floor, and you consider the fact that this guy's minutes this season are through the roof, right? He's averaging 37 minutes per game on the year. The minutes plus the usage, I agree with Patty Mills. It's tough to get to, but could that not be an elite tournament play? And I'm honestly asking you here, if Durant's off and Patty Mills is still one of the lowest owned Nets because of his price point.
Yeah, if Durant's out, then you get a situation with Mills where, I think he probably plays a couple of more minutes, but, also you can assume that like 1/3 of his minutes would come without either one of Durant or Harden on the floor. He's produced 0.86 DraftKings points per minute, 23% usage rate, 29% assist percentage, only 69 minutes played without either of them on the floor this year. But those are really healthy rates for someone to get, about 1/3 of their minutes if they're going to play, let's say 36 minutes. So if Durant's out, it does make Mills an interesting tournament option, because I think you're right. Ownership would still, even if it comes up on him, it wouldn't come up as much as it does in some of these cheaper guys. So he would still be, I think, more difficult to get to in cash than the guys that are $1,000 less, but in tournaments, he would start to make some sense. If Durant's in, it's just still difficult for me to get to Mills, because I don't really think that none of the guys that are out really add usage, right? Bembry, it doesn't matter. Javon Carter and James Johnson don't matter. Aldridge, is a little bit higher usage than Claxton, but still you kind of assume that's just going to go to Durant and Harden anyway, or it's going to get spread around in general. It's so none of it. Mills is kind of still priced correctly. Like he's not getting extra minutes probably from those guys being out. He's not getting extra production. But when you take Durant out, there's some extra production, assuming that he has his minutes staggered with Harden.
Let's wrap up the Nets. Any final thoughts here on Brooklyn?
I don't think there is possibly anything else I could say.
It's a really weird situation, because you're not just down 5 players. You could also be down their best player. That's what makes it so insane.
Yeah, it's like two totally, even though it's only one player, it's two totally separate circumstances.
We basically just broke 2 teams down in one shot.
Right.
You're 100% right. That's what it is. It changes absolutely everything. It takes one player from, an okay play in Harden to the best play on the slate, and everybody else follows him. So yeah, we'll pay attention. Eric and Greg live before lock, 6:30 to 7:30. Be sure to hang with them as well in the event that you're not. Post-lock show, Jock Market post-lock show for 30 minutes as well. So hang afterwards too.
Harden is not their best player.
What's that?
Somebody in chat said Harden is the Nets' best player.
Kevin Durant is not only their best player, he is by far their best player.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not close.
Kevin Durant's the best player in the NBA except for Nikola Jokic, probably.
Except for who?
Jokic.
I would take Kevin Durant to win a game like a big game over Jokic for sure.
I think it's really close. I mean,
Really?
yeah. Jokic is absurd.
What about Giannis?
He's up there this year. I would say Durant and Jokic ahead of him.
I thought you said Nikola Vucevic at first. That's why I said,
Yes, Nikola Vucevic, the number one player in the NBA, really gets slept on.
Plan B Smoothies, thanks for the super chat. Says, happy birthday, my guy, Laffy. Thanks. I'm just going to start saying thank you at this point. Fuck it. I mean, every single day at this point. Nathan Wagner, DraftKings single entry, Nurkic, Covington versus Green and Robinson, Adam. Nurkic, Covington versus Green, Robinson.
I'm drawing a blank on who Robinson even is. Oh, Mitchell Robinson. Okay.
Mitchell Otis, yeah.
Yeah. Nurkic, Covington versus Draymond and Mitchell Robinson, I guess. Probably Nurkic, Covington. I think it's close. I'm not super confident in Covington's minutes. We'll talk about that a little bit when we get to Portland, but I think it kind of sucks because Nurkic and Covington could cut into each other's minutes too. Yeah, I mean, I think it's really close. I guess from a ceiling standpoint, actually, no, give me Green and Robinson just because if Robinson did happen to somehow get to 24 to 26 minutes, he looks really good. I think it's a little difficult for Covington to get a ton of minutes and Nurkic to get a ton of minutes.
All right. I'm shocked that Josh is not in chat right now because if he was hearing this, he'd be in chat immediately on some of these Durant Harden takes. Durant versus Harden. There's no doubt.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Josh loves debating that stuff. All right. Toronto. What are you doing with the Toronto Raptors? Precious Achua's out still. So they're certainly going to be limited once again at the front court. And that's really the only thing we're looking at here.
Sorry, I needed to pull that back up. So Toronto rather. They are pretty much the same situation that we've seen recently. The only difference from yesterday is that they also don't have Delano Banton. So I'm assuming that Malachi Flynn just steps into those 10 to 12 minutes. You potentially could get a situation where they just run a shorter rotation and more minutes go to Svi Mikhailuk or Watanabe. But I'm assuming Flynn just steps in. That kind of seems like the easiest route to go. So it's a situation where you have Chris Boucher, I think, as the best option from the team. He's projected for a good amount of ownership, but also projected to go a little bit under-owned. 36% chance of being in the optimal lineup on DraftKings, 27% projected ownership right now. He played 22 minutes last game. He's averaged 24 minutes per game in his 3 starts, but in those 3 starts, the first one, he played about 22 minutes in 3 quarters, didn't play at all in the fourth for whatever reason. Second game played 26 to 27 minutes. Yesterday played about 22 minutes in 3 quarters. None of the starters played in the fourth except for Scotty Barnes. So that was, blowout related why he didn't come back. It's likely he gets you 26, 27 minutes. He's 1.03 DraftKings points per minute, 1.06 FanDuel points per minute this year. With power forward eligibility, just looks like a really good option.
Any top priorities right now from Toronto?
Yeah, I think Boucher is the top priority. Siakam, Van Vliet, Barnes, Trent are all fine. They're all likely to play a lot of minutes. They're all also appropriately priced here. If you wanted, for whatever reason, to take a shot at one of the cheap guys, I think it's likely you get 22 minutes or so from Watanabe, but I think there's plenty of value on this slate outside of him.
Okay. Let's talk about Golden State and the New York Knicks. Before we do, though, shout out to our sponsor, Jock Market. Like I said, if you're looking to get the inside track over there today, be sure to hang out with Greg and Eric after Live Before Lock. Jock Market turns fantasy sports into a stock exchange where you can make money every minute down to the second. And if you use the promo code Awesomeo, get up to $50 bonus on your first deposit, AWESEMO, when you sign up and deposit after downloading the Jock Market app. The cool thing about Jock Market, though, is they got the IPO process where you can go in there ahead of time after doing a little research, maybe looking at our tools, possibly the free Jock Market IPO projections at Awesemo every single day of the week. And, getting on players way earlier than anybody else would, holding them, selling or buying more shares throughout the day. Again, it's essentially day trading from a fantasy, from a DFS standpoint. Very cool platform. They got football, basketball, hockey, PGA, all of that good stuff. And the best part of all of this is if you lose on your first NFL or NBA market after signing up for the first time and depositing, there is a first market guaranteed refund up to $100. So use the free Jock Market IPO projections that we have. Use the promo code Awesemo to get up to a $50 bonus when you sign up. And of course, take advantage of that first market guarantee where you get up to $100 refunded if you lose your first time up. Jock Market, JOCKMKT. Download that in the App Store or the Google Play Store. Sponsor of the Deeper Dive. All right, talk to me about the Golden State Warriors today. Number one defense in the league, Adam. They play at a pretty fast pace as well, 7th fastest pace. They're allowing 4 fewer points per 100 possessions than any other team in the league this year. That's how good their defense has been.
Yeah, extremely good defensively. The only saving grace, if you're talking about the defense from a fantasy standpoint, is the Warriors do play at such a fast pace that the opposing team can still be inefficient but still get there. For example, looking at Indiana last night. But defense has been great. From a fantasy standpoint for Golden State, I think that there's a lot of players you can get to here. I wouldn't say that there's any that stand out as top plays on the slate, but I do think that there's guys that you can get to as high upside plays at relatively low ownership. Jordan Poole leads the way on DraftKings, pulling 24% ownership at $5,800. I think he is the top play here in terms of salary. He's likely to give you 30 to 32 minutes. He's got almost a 25% usage rate this year, 17.5% assist percentage. He averages about a fantasy point per minute. So he looks pretty good. Same can be said for Wiggins. Same can be said for Green. All of these guys are in that, low 30s range in terms of projections. The salaries are about where they should be. Steph Curry, we kind of talked about when we talked about Harden. I think he's really interesting in tournaments if Kevin Durant plays. If Durant's out, you could still argue that Curry's interesting in tournaments because you're going to get an even bigger gap in ownership between him and Harden. Like if Durant sits, you could see something like 60% Harden, 10% Curry, which would still be kind of appealing. But even right now with the way ownership projections are, if you're getting basically a 50% off discount on Stephen Curry, it looks really, really good because the range of outcomes is the same as Harden's, even if he's projected for about a point less. So definitely interested in him in tournaments. I would go to Harden in cash games. Kevon Looney is, I think, someone you could use as a pivot to Claxton if you wanted to go that route. Looney projected for 9% ownership right now, $100 more than Claxton. His playing time has been typically in the mid to upper teens this season, but his last 2 games, he's played 25 and 27 minutes. He played 27 minutes yesterday, despite not even playing in the second quarter. So it's really risky. And I don't think you should just be assuming he plays 26 minutes or anything, but it's obviously a greater than non-zero chance that Looney just goes out there, plays 26 minutes and basically, is neck and neck with Claxton. So I do think he is interesting as long as the ownership stays a lot lower than Claxton's.
Someone said, you can tell Adam doesn't watch basketball. That's a good one.
Yeah, I responded. I probably watch more basketball than anyone watching this show.
Yeah, you're a single guy who just set up 5 TVs in his apartment.
Yeah, no basketball watching going on here.
No, just straight xvideos.com across the board.
5 different screens.
That's dedication. You check your lineups every couple hours. Anyway, hit that thumbs up too. We got 2,500 people watching. We're 149 away from 500. I think we'll get there pretty easily. Give Greg and Eric something nice when they come over for that crossover. Make their lives a little bit easier. But if you enjoy this stuff, take that 2 seconds, that 1 second out of your time to smash that thumbs up for us. Greatly appreciated. All right. What else do you want to hit on for the Warriors?
Someone asked Looney if you can play Looney and Claxton together in a lineup. Yeah, sure. Nothing wrong with that. As far as the rest of Golden State, there's not really much. Like Otto Porter is out tonight. Andre Iguodala is back after missing the last game. I don't really know how many minutes we can expect from Iguodala because he has missed a ton of time over the last month. He's basically played 1 game in that time and played 11 minutes. So I think it's likely you get, 15, 16 minutes from him. I have trouble thinking he comes out and plays like 22 or 23. And we know that Kerr likes to run a deep rotation. So even with Porter out, I think it's likely that you just get Bjelica, Toscano Anderson, Iggy, Peyton, Lee, Kuminga all playing enough minutes to where none of them really look that useful in DFS.
Someone said, shit my lotion. That's good stuff. These 3-game slates always make for some good talk. Hey, Josh Tickman, thank you for the super chat. Says, hi all. Wait, hi all. Set up teams with McGee and swap. Sounds like he's sending me an email. Hi all. Set up teams with McGee and swap with Nance or Covington if Ayton's out. Okay. So set up teams with McGee and swap with Nance or Covington if Ayton's out, question mark.
I think that's fine. I don't think that's a bad approach at all. Worst case, like you could keep McGee in some of those teams too, even if Ayton's in. And I assume he means swap if Ayton is in. But that's one way to do it. I think the way I'm going to do it is that because Ayton is reasonably priced, and we can go into more detail when we talk about the Suns, but I think my approach is going to be to assume Ayton is in, and then if he's out, obviously I can swap all of my Ayton to McGee. I can swap my Nurkic to McGee. I'll still in some lineups be able to swap, Nance to McGee. So that's the approach I'm taking. But I do think what he's saying is it's not a bad way to go, because what you're basically doing is you're setting it up so that you're going to naturally get less of the early value that people are playing and more McGee, which is risky because obviously if Ayton plays, then you missed out on some of your Claxton, Looney type plays. But if Ayton is out, then you put yourself in a position where you just have the far superior value option in like every lineup.
Jordan, pay attention here because we still got 25 minutes to go. We're making good time. You guys walk into Adam's apartment. What's he watching on all 5 televisions? Best answer gets a free week of Awesomeo plus Platinum. Jordan, you pick the best answer. Whatever you think is the best. What's Adam watching? You walk in, oh, shit. What's that? That's best answer. Free month of Awesomeo plus Platinum. Everything on the site. We can do that. No problem.
On the TVs or on the VR headset? Because that's 2 wildly different answers.
Do you have the VR headset?
Yeah, I got it like a week ago.
Oh, is it sick?
Yeah, it's nice.
Yeah.
I haven't played around with it too much, but yeah, it's good.
Okay. 1,000-pound sisters. That's a good one. Heck of a show too. Jordan, just pull the best one. We'll have them DM us. And let me know if there's any good ones. So on the other side of this game, let me tell you, this is so nuts just how good the actual Golden State Warriors defense is.
Are you looking at chat right now?
Oh God, hold on.
I don't think I've ever seen chat move this fast.
Sorry, Jordan. Yeah. Should we put it in slow mode? You can always put it in slow mode. Masked Singer. Dude, that show makes you dumber. This is crazy. Okay.
It comes on after like what, football or something?
I think it's on Wednesdays.
I've seen it.
I saw a commercial for it.
I've seen it a couple of times just because like it comes on after, I swear it comes on after like Sunday Night Football or something.
It's terrible.
Yeah, but it's like so dumb. It's hard to stop watching.
Antonio Brown was on the first one ever.
Really?
That's the only reason I knew about it. Yeah. Anyway, sorry. Jordan's got it. Jordan, you can leave us both up on the screen. Don't even worry about producing for a minute. All right. Pull it going because there's some really good answers that I can't even read half of these. How about this? The Warriors are second best in points in the paint allowed, second lowest 3-point percentage allowed, second fewest offensive rebounds allowed, second fewest defensive rebounds allowed. If you go across the board, they're pretty much top 3 in every defensive category.
Yeah, they're great.
So that doesn't mean that you can't play the Knicks, especially if you have some injuries. And like you said, the Warriors play at a fast pace. So they're going to open things up against the Knicks team that plays at a bottom 5 pace in this league. What are we doing with the New York Knicks now that RJ Barrett is out? Grimes, who played 40 minutes in that last game, is now in the health and safety protocol. Excuse me. And Obi Toppin is also out in health and safety protocols.
Yeah, so the way I'm viewing the Knicks is that I'm expecting it to be pretty much the same as last game because last game Grimes played 39 minutes, but Alec Burks was out. Now Alec Burks is back. Grimes is out. So I'm expecting similar rotations here where Burks steps in, plays, 36, 37 minutes. But I think the Knicks are really, really interesting in tournaments because I do think that there is some volatility in the playing time as far as guys playing better could just pick up an extra 3 or 4 minutes. And that can make them look really, really good. So starting with what stands out, Derrick Rose, I think looks fantastic. He's 5K on DraftKings. He's 6,200 on FanDuel. He is 39% owned on DraftKings, but we actually have him going a bit under-owned here. At 39% ownership, we still have him as the second most under-owned player on the entire slate on DraftKings. He's averaged a fantasy point per minute this season. He's most likely starting, played 36 minutes last game. He doesn't have to play 36 minutes here. If he plays 30 or 32, he's likely to still give you around 6 times his salary. If he plays 35, 36, it's probably hard to win without him. So he looks great on DraftKings. He looks very good on FanDuel as well. Alec Burks, I think, looks better on FanDuel than on DraftKings. He's fine on DraftKings. He's likely to play 36, 37 minutes. He's played a ton since joining the starting lineup. He's, 0.9 to 1 fantasy point per minute guy, but he is $600 less expensive, or $500 less expensive on FanDuel than he is on DraftKings. So he looks a little bit better there, but pulling plenty of ownership. Julius Randle, if you can get to him, looks good regardless. He's with Damian Lillard in that like 9 to 10K range where, maybe if you can't quite get to the top tier guys, but you can get to those guys, they still give you a high ceiling. Where I think this team gets really interesting in tournaments though. So on DraftKings, Emmanuel Quickly projected for 29% ownership at 4,600. I think he's a fine option. I don't think I'll be getting close to that ownership. I think it's likely that you get, depending on how he plays, anywhere between 24 and 30 minutes. But if the ownership's already going to be there, I think it's kind of tough for me to get to. Where I am really interested, though, Evan Fournier sucks from a fantasy standpoint. There's no debating that. He's at 0.76 DraftKings points per minute this year. He has a 19.5% usage rate overall. In the games without Kemba, he's at like 20.5%. But what I think is really interesting is that on DraftKings, he's only getting 10% ownership. He's got guard and forward eligibility, so you can roster him in the maximum number of spots. He played about 26 and a half minutes last game, but he wasn't on the floor at the very end of the game. If he's playing well and this game's competitive, you could certainly see him on the floor instead of Emmanuel Quickly or instead of, Burks possibly, or even Rose. Not particularly likely, but the point being, if he's playing well, instead of those 26 and a half minutes, you can easily get 30 to 32 minutes, and he's low owned. So that's a spot where, potentially he just can help you differentiate on a 3-game slate. And then the same can be said for the centers here. I don't think Mitchell Robinson or Nerlens Noel are particularly great plays on this slate. Like you have Kevon Looney, who's less. You have Claxton, who's less. You potentially are going to have McGee open up as the best value on the slate. But Mitchell Robinson's projected for 3% ownership on DraftKings. He's averaged 1.1 DraftKings points per minute in the 4 games he's come off the bench. He's averaged 19 to 20 minutes per game. There's always a path to him playing a few more minutes for one reason or another and being a really good value at low ownership. It's just difficult to find on 3-game slates. It's difficult to find low owned players who actually produce at a high rate. So going to someone like Robinson is kind of appealing to me just because I know he's going to produce when he's out there. It's just a matter of I need to get lucky on the playing time. Kevin Knox getting 8% ownership. Speaking of guys who suck, but kind of needs to play mid-20s in minutes here. So the low-owned guys on the Knicks, I think, are interesting just because the minutes are there. Especially if they play well, you could certainly get a couple more minutes, and that's always appealing. At the top, I think Derrick Rose looks great. Randall and Burks are fine.
All right. So you really like the Knicks today?
In tournament, I like Derrick Rose in any format. On FanDuel, I really like Alec Burks in any format. In tournaments, I'd like mixing in some of the lower owned guys, Fournier, Knox, Robinson, just because I think there's volatility in their playing time that isn't being accounted for.
On a 3-game slate, sure. I mean, yeah, exactly. Robinson's pulling, 3% right now?
Yeah, 3% on DraftKings.
All right. So Rose got 40. We just got an update, I think 2 minutes ago on ownership as well. 4 minutes ago. Okay. And we also know that, hold on a second. Hold on. Okay. We still have Kevin Durant projected in. For some reason, I thought we had just projected him out on that last run, but that's not the case. Okay, good. Anything else from either side of this one? Knicks, Golden State. I mean, that was a thorough, comprehensive breakdown of the New York Knicks. I applaud you for that.
Yeah, you should, but no, that's it.
El Negro, our buddy El Negro Loco News God had super chatted us, but I feel, here it is. He said, Adam's watching Pornhub on the VR headset, basketball on one TV, hockey on the second. He's watching wrestling on the third. He's watching Shanda doing the Home Shopping Network on the fourth, and he's watching Iron Chef.
got the QVC going.
Yeah, the Sandler one got, yeah. So, I mean, he's probably killing it around Christmas time. Do they make commission on that stuff? Like how much can you sell during your time slot? You know what
I
I
think
mean?
so.
You think so?
I think so.
I would want to. I would want to know that if I'm selling, I'm selling.
Right.
Not, like, hey, good job, hourly wage. Now let me know that, if it's all old people that you're stealing from anyway, Aton.
You can't do sales and not get commission. Like that just
Seems wrong.
Drains your soul.
Right. The South Park episode on QVC was the funniest thing in the world, man. Go watch that if you haven't. Anyway, let's do Awesemo Hall of Fame, Jordan. And then we got Phoenix and Portland to talk about. We know that Booker's out. We're still waiting on the Deontay Ayton news, and that's been a thorn in the sides of many recently as well. So with that being the only game past 7:30, we'll have to make some contingency plans there and talk about what we're going to do. So stick around. But first, if you want to get inducted into the Awesemo Hall of Fame, it's very simple. All you got to do is go to awesemo.com/avatar. Download the avatar, use it on DraftKings, FanDuel, Yahoo, wherever you want. Finish top 3 in a field of 5,000 or more and tweet us at Awesemo, HOF. Tweet us your screenshot of your win with the avatar. Get a free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum. $90 value right there. And, well, here we go. AB, former defensive end. You know him for the Bears. He's on the show with us every week. Matt Kajeski and myself doing the NFL strategy show bright and early in the morning. Took this down yesterday, Adam, with the help of you and many others. $66 entry, $3K, second place. Good stuff there to AB. Shouting out Awesemo for a pretty good night. Jordan Lockhart, no surprise, is going to Miami. Just secured that FFWC live final ticket. Let's go. Thanks to everyone at Awesemo. This is the biggest heater I think I've ever seen in my life when it comes, and not Peter Hanley, Gene B. Kim, those guys, no doubt, absolutely crushed it. Jordan Lockhart may have taken he's wearing the crown right now. Jason Stone, first place takedown. Don't know how to show my Awesemo avatar, except like this. You can see it on other devices. This qualifies. Yes, it does. 6,100, first place out of 8,800. Good stuff, man. And then Seth Curtis, let's get it, boys. 10,500, huge win right there. Get into the Hall of Fame, fella. And Miss Unick, 13,829 in that showdown. Sunday night football slate. Crazy game between the Packers and the Bears. Congrats to all of you. Welcome to the Hall of Fame. And we're happy to have you here. Again, download the avatar, awesemo.com/avatar. Hit us up on Twitter at Awesemo, HOF. Get that free month and get shouted out right here on the Hall of Fame. Of course, catch all that love on Twitter as well. All right, let's do it. One more game. Phoenix, Portland. What are we doing with Phoenix right now? Coming in at, what are they still? 1.5 point favorites, 219 total. Let's start with just Booker being out once again. Has anything changed as far as salaries go?
Not really. Paul's still coming in at 8,400 on DraftKings. Ayton, if he plays, at 7,500. Payne at 4,400. It's pretty much what it's been for the last couple of weeks.
All right, then let's break this one down right now. Since we just got a fresh run of ownership. Oh, free content on the site today too. I forgot to mention that. You don't have to be a sub or anything. Ownership rankings for basketball and NHL top stacks tool. Both of them entirely free at awesemo.com if you want to get in on that and you're not a premium sub. So Phoenix right now, Chris Paul is getting the most ownership, 29.9% on DraftKings. Sounds about right here, Adam. I mean, with Devin Booker out, he's going to definitely pull more opportunities. 34.8% on FanDuel. How are you approaching Chris Paul tonight on a slate where there's so much uncertainty and so many moving parts?
Yeah, he's kind of interesting because I think he sort of grades out as like a neutral play at his salary, but there's not that many alternatives around him at that price. So there's just going to be a lot of lineups where he slots in as, the easiest piece to fit. I think that's why he's getting ownership. So yeah, he's a good play. He's likely to give you 32, 33 minutes. He has, without Booker on the floor this year, he has a 21.5% usage rate, 48.9% assist percentage. Looks like a good option here. Pretty easy to get to, especially in lineups where maybe you are going a little bit more balanced and, maybe where you're not going like Claxton plus Looney, so you can get up to someone like Harden. So he also relatively will look better if Durant is in. That's the one thing to keep in mind too when we talk about these guys. If Durant is in, all the people we're talking about now, especially at the top end, look better. because it makes Harden look worse. So saving money to get the Paul becomes more appealing. If Durant's out, Harden just moves up so much in terms of projection that it makes Paul relatively look a little bit worse.
All right. Do you have Ayton in or out right now dealing with this illness? He's been questionable well after lock pretty much every one of these games where he's been uncertain.
I have him in right now. Kind of like we talked about with that super chat. I don't feel really strongly one way or the other on like what the correct way to approach it is. The way that I'm thinking it is that we have Ayton projected to be one of the most under-owned players on the slate in terms of optimal lineup percentage versus ownership percentage, because him being questionable well after lock is just going to drive down his ownership. But if you roster Ayton and he's out, it's not really that big of a risk. Let's say you have no other spots open in your lineup. You still just swap Ayton either to Nurkic or to McGee, and you're fine. You know, McGee's one of the best per minute fantasy producers in the NBA. He's likely to play 26 minutes or so if Ayton's out. You're fine, even though you ended up having to leave salary on the table. But also, there's a lot of plays on the Portland side. There's a lot of plays on the Phoenix side. They're going to get into lineups so that chances are I'll be able to, you know, swap 2 to 3 pieces and upgrade elsewhere. So I like the idea. I personally like the idea of leaving Ayton in, because if he does play, I'd like to get to some of him, because I think he is going to be under-owned, and I don't think it's going to be hard to swap away from him.
Let me flip that for a second and just throw it the opposite direction to you, right? I think you could make a similar argument on a 3-game slate for JaVale McGee.
So do I.
Okay. So if you say, you know what, I'm just going to assume that Ayton's out, and I'm going to play JaVale McGee, who averages 1.4 DraftKings points per minute on the season on a 3-game slate with sub 10% ownership. Worst case scenario, especially with Ayton coming off an illness, is you get like 14 minutes or so from McGee and still a very good shot of crossing 20, 23 fantasy points. Is it going to single-handedly win you a tournament? No, but it's probably not going to kill you either. If there was one guy in this league right now, I'm sure you could pick a couple others, but you know where I'm going with this. Like if there was one of a handful of guys that you could say, you know what, it's not the worst case scenario that I have to get this guy off the bench and his 15 minutes as an elite fantasy point per minute guy, it's JaVale McGee.
Yeah, and I think that's a very strong argument too. Like I said, like what I was saying about Ayton, like that's where I'm at right now. I think it's very close. And I made your argument basically when we got that super chat and the person asked if they could just, you know, play Ayton or play McGee and then deal with the rest later. Like assuming he's going to end up in your utility spot. So if you get stuck with $4,200 JaVale McGee playing 16 or 17 minutes, that's not the end of the world for one. If you have to swap him to, you know, other pieces, let's say Larry Nance or Nas Little or Covington, if you can't find the extra $100 or two, that's not the end of the world either. So it's still, you're in a less than ideal situation if you have, you know, like 100% McGee and it gets rolled in, but it's not, you can salvage it. And it makes you contrarian naturally, because even though McGee's going to get a lot of ownership, like for example, last night he was 28% owned when we got the late Ayton news. Tonight, you know, let's say he's 30%. It's still going to be whatever the number is. It's going to be lower than it would be if we were to get that news right now that Ayton's out. So I think they're really close. I don't think there's a wrong way to approach this. The reason I'm leaning towards Ayton is that I know I will still get plenty of JaVale McGee. Not as much as I would want. I'd like to have 100% McGee if I know Ayton's not going to play, but I know I'm still going to be able to get to plenty of JaVale McGee, even if I project Ayton in, because I'm going to get some lineups to just have McGee anyway. I'm going to get other lineups where I get Ayton and I can swap to McGee. So that's why I'm leaning that way. But I do think what you're saying makes sense too. And I think it's really close.
Bill W with the super chat. Another famous name popping up into chat. You know who Bill W was, Adam?
I don't think so.
No. Founder of Alcoholics Anonymous.
Yeah. Why would I know about that shit?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why I know either. Bill W says, I need a pick between 4.4 and so 4,400 and 42K on DraftKings at forward. 4,200. Say it again.
Probably Nance.
Nance, yeah. You have Fournier there, like you said, if you're trying to get different. Bruce Brown's 4,300 if KD sits.
Oh, wait. Oh, never mind. Yeah, Boucher's 4,800. So yeah, I think my answer would be Nance. Little's there too.
Yeah, Little. Okay. There's a decent amount there for sure.
And also on the Phoenix side, so and this transitions back into the rest of this team. If Ayton were to sit, it doesn't only make McGee better. Jalen Smith's already been ruled out. So you would have McGee, and then you would have nothing really in terms of backup centers. So that would make a $4,400 Cam Johnson look better. It would make $4,200 Jay Crowder look better. So you could add those guys in too if Ayton were to be ruled out.
All right. Anything else you want to hit on for Phoenix?
Yes. Cameron Payne, I think, is really interesting. For one, I have no idea why he's getting less ownership than Emmanuel Quickly. He's basically the same play, except a better per minute fantasy producer. He's likely to play a few less minutes, but he is someone where he also, I think, benefits if Ayton sits because of how the rotation changes. Last night, we saw Chris Paul play 33 minutes, and we still got 28 and a half minutes from Cameron Payne. In the games Booker's been out, Paul's averaged about 32 to 33 minutes. Payne has averaged about 23 minutes. So typically you're getting, 5-6 minutes alongside each other, but they played like 12 to 13 minutes alongside each other yesterday. And part of the reason is that with Ayton and Jalen Smith out, it changed Phoenix's rotations where, Cameron Johnson played more minutes. Jay Crowder didn't play more minutes, but I think he actually, I think he dealt some foul trouble, or he would have played more. But those guys have to pick up those backup center minutes, and it makes it so you just get more minutes where Paul's playing alongside Payne. He has a 29% usage rate without Booker on the floor this season. He has a 31% usage rate in the 5 games that Booker has missed entirely. So 4,400 for Cameron Payne. If he plays 22 minutes, like if Ayton is in and you get 22 minutes or 23 minutes from Payne, he looks like a good value. If Ayton is out and you add 4 or 5 minutes on, Payne looks excellent.
Somebody said they played McGee last night, 65%, when the field had him at 5%, and then said he sucked. Didn't he have like 13 and 13?
He had 31 DraftKings points.
Yeah, I wouldn't say I'd say I don't know what you're looking for from the guy. Jordan, did you find that one? Well, you got to pick one then, man. The show's almost over. Figure it out, man. You're on the spot here, but figure a good one out. There were plenty of good ones. We got to give it away. What did he say? That's the one you want? All 5 watching Bob Ross paintings? All right, Jermaine Thomas, you win. I would have gone with 1,000-Pound Sisters, or somebody else said to YouTube tutorials on how to get laid on the first date. I thought that was pretty funny. But all right, Jermaine Thomas. Jordan has the final say. All 5 Bob Ross paintings. DM us at are your DMs open, Jordan? What's your Twitter? All right, Klein with a K at Jordan D. Klein. You're cool with getting that. You're cool with that, right? All right, Jermaine Thomas, DM Jordan, get your free week, and you can hit me up, Jordan. I can hook him up with it afterwards. Or no, you know what? You can DM me. I don't want to put it on Jordan. DM me, Jermaine, at Loughy_D, LOUGHY_D. I'll get you taken care of. All right, let's close it out with the Portland Trailblazers before we flip the page to the Live Before Lock show. Adam, what are we doing here at the top with Damian Lillard?
I think he looks good. He's another one, so similar to Chris Paul. He looks good regardless, but if Durant's in, Lillard relatively looks better just because there's less of a gap between him and Harden. You're going to have on DraftKings about a $1,500 price difference between the two. Lillard so far this year in a little over 200 minutes without McCollum has a 32% usage rate, 32% assist percentage. Just using those numbers, he projects as a good option here, but there's room for that to go up, especially if he really is getting healthier. In 25 games without McCollum since last year, Lillard has a 34% usage rate. His assist percentage approaches 40%. So, looks good, even just using what he's done this year. Certainly has the potential to be a lot better. The rest of this team becomes a situation where it's kind of like the Knicks and the Suns, where a lot of guys look really similar, and you're getting some ownership, but not a ton. I think that the rotation for Portland last night is really important to talk about, though, because or last game rather, because if you just look at it, you see that Nas Little only played 20 minutes. Nance played 26. Covington played 34. Simons played 33. It would be easy to just, assume that was by design. But Larry Nance dealt with fouls. He picked up 2 fouls in the first 4 minutes and 16 seconds, picked up his third in the second quarter, picked up number 4 2 minutes into the third, didn't come back until the start of the fourth. I think if he avoids fouls, you could easily see 30 minutes from Nance. Nas Little only played 20 minutes. Like I said, he picked up 2 fouls in the first half. It wasn't foul related. It just, he didn't play a lot. But we know that we've seen plenty of games this year where he can get upper 20s or push 30 minutes. So I don't think it's a foregone conclusion that he only plays 20 minutes again. And then similarly, Covington benefited from Nance's foul trouble. He picked up a bunch of extra minutes when Nance went to the bench. Anthony Simons subbed in when Little went to the bench. So I think that there are times where, you get a few less minutes for Little or for Simons, you get less minutes for Covington, you get more for Nance, you get more for Little. So I think it's a situation where setting rules is a little bit more important. But oh God. I thought the only thing I could think of was that Lillard was out. I didn't see Harden coming.
Dude. Well, coming up next, live before lock.
I mean, so if Durant plays, real quick, if Durant plays, he's the best play on the slate, hands down. If Durant sits, just play as much Brooklyn as you can.
And Bruce Brown too.
Bruce Brown, Patty Mills just becomes a lot better too. But Bruce Brown being somebody that can play every position. I mean, this is somebody that can run point. He can play the wings. It just makes it, this is the type of game where Bruce Brown can just have a massive role.
Don't you need 8 players on an active roster to play a game?
Bruce Brown is out.
I know. I just said that.
Oh, I thought you were saying Bruce Brown.
Oh, I'm sorry. No. Yeah. Don't you need 8 players active on the roster?
Yeah. So Durant has to be active now. It's just a matter of if he plays.
That's exactly what I was going to say. So Durant's probably going to be active. Now we have to figure out whether or not he's going to play. That is a huge problem, right?
If Durant's not in the starting lineup,
don't touch him.
Right.
Don't
exactly.
touch him. He won't play. There's no way he's playing if he's not in the starting lineup. You're absolutely. If Durant starts, play him. If he's active and doesn't start, we've seen this. We saw this a lot last season. If they don't start and they're just active, get away from him. But you're right. Right now, if Durant is out as well, just play as much Brooklyn as you possibly can. Pretty much everywhere. They're going to have to play. This is March basketball, Adam. This is early April basketball here. Like old school Memphis Grizzlies from a few years ago where they had 8 guys and only played 6 of them. So that's the easiest advice we could give you. Greg and Eric coming up next. Do you want to close out? I'm sorry, I cut you off with Portland because that was big news. Was there anything else you wanted to hit on with the Blazers before we go?
No, I was just saying that I think there's a lot of volatility in their minutes, kind of like there is with Phoenix and with the Knicks. So just, keep that in mind. Pay attention to ownership. If you see one of, like right now, we have them mostly similar. Simons, Little, Covington, Nance, all between 14 and 18% on DraftKings. But if you were to see one of them really drop off, don't be afraid to go to them as a contrarian play because I think there's a lot of volatility there.
All right. Hey, Jordan Lockhart, appreciate you, man. Thanks for the parting gift here. Man, that's crazy that Harden just...
I really hope this game doesn't get canceled. I don't want to play 2 games late.
I was just going to say, I wouldn't be surprised if it does. It wouldn't be shocking to me at all if it does. But we'll see, man. We'll see. Don't go anywhere. You've got Eric and Greg taking you up to lock. I mean, if there was ever a night to watch live before lock, it would be right now because you're going to need it. We're all going to need it. We'll sit here. We'll watch as news rolls in and we wait on Kevin Durant. And as you guys hit that thumbs up 8 more times to get us to 600, we'll catch you back here soon. Thanks for watching. As always, it's the Deeper Dive presented by Jock Market. Peace. That shit is crazy though, dude. At this point, I don't really know what to think.
What's going on, everybody? Hey, we're here. NBA Live Before Lock, presented by Jock Market. I'm Eric Lindquist. We're going to break down this 3-game slate. We're still at 3 here for the time being here. We have 8 eligible players for the Nets. We'll get into everything that just broke at the end of the last show. Poor guys, you go on for an hour, and then all of a sudden, the last minute, bang, all the news in the entire world that's going to dictate this slate comes out. But we've got somebody to kind of wade through the madness with, and that's my buddy at G. Ehrenberg DFS on the Twitter sphere. You know him as Greg Ehrenberg. How you doing, my dude?
Overall pretty well, but what the hell's going on here? It's a situation where before I'm counting how many available players there are for the Nets to try to figure out, is this game actually happening or not? Which was, what's that noise in the background, by the way? But is that Jordan Klein? Okay.
Hey, maybe mute yourself, Jordan Klein. First show back.
Could the audience hear that Jordan goes away for one show and all the so if people weren't able to hear, Jordan is listening to the show as we're doing it, so I'm listening to myself talk as I'm talking. There's nothing worse than listening to yourself talk. It's the worst thing ever. So, but this net situation, they currently have 8 players who are active. Kevin Durant, Nick Claxton, Cam Thomas, Blake Griffin, Patty Mills, Day'Ron Sharpe, David Duke, and Kessler Edwards. Last 3 guys, I'm not positive if they actually exist. But the issue is now who these guys are going to play minutes. I have no clue, nor do I have any way to find out.
Kevin Durant's going to play minutes if he's in the starting lineup. Actually, we don't even know that. We don't even know if Kevin Durant, it says available. I'm assuming that if he wasn't healthy, if he wasn't going to be playing, they would find a way to try to get out of this game, postpone it. We would already probably be at that point, but something tells me that this game plays here. And so we're going to wade through all the madness. Everybody hit the like button. Oh, my dude, let's get it. Of course, Jordan Lockhart coming in hot here at the beginning of this, but hit that like button. Goes a long way for us, helps us to be able to mentally stimulate and think about what we need to do in order to break down this Nets rotation. And again, this is kind of back to last season. This is the first game we've had that really felt like the Miami Heat situation, the Philadelphia situation, number of situations we had. Charlotte is pretty close for what we had with them, but there were still enough players that we were able to kind of find some minutes here. 8 guys, Kevin Durant banged up. I just want to go through this here right off the bat and list off these players: Kevin Durant, Nicholas Claxton, Cameron Thomas, Patty Mills, Blake Griffin, David Duke Jr., Day'Ron Sharpe, Kessler Edwards. Who do you think starts tonight?
All right, so I guess I'm just going to assume the guys I haven't heard of are the ones who aren't starting.
That's what I'm kind of saying, is that I think it's the 5 names, right?
I guess that can't even be the case either, though, because they're not going to start Claxton. I guess they will. Yeah, I'll just say Patty Mills, Blake Griffin, Cam Thomas, Nick Claxton, Kevin Durant. I think that's the 5. And then you've got Day'Ron Sharpe, David Duke, by the way, guys. David Duke, Kessler Edwards, those 3 coming off the bench, and they'll probably play like mid-20s minutes.
I think so, but does that just what does it make for these 5 guys that are starting? Claxton hasn't played over 27 minutes here all season, 24 minutes I'm looking at. He hasn't played over the entire season, was out of the rotation for a hot second. Cameron Thomas, somebody that I think out of everybody that you just listed, Cameron Thomas feels like the can't miss, can't fail, jam him in with every lineup and could play 35 minutes out of everybody there. Kevin Durant, of course, now, as long as he's in that starting lineup without James Harden, but that one feels a little obvious. Is this going to be something where you're looking at Cameron Thomas as kind of an all-in play like I am?
I don't know. I'm going to look at him as an all-in play. He's certainly going to be one of my more exposed players, but I don't think I'm going to be that aggressive with him. I'll see when I'm reworking my lineups, because obviously everything I built at any other point in the day, totally just garbage now, throw in the trash. It is no relevance or use at all at this point, because this is certainly something that we had no clue was coming. But let me look at some of the rates for Cam Thomas this year. By the way, Cam Thomas, this is a Jordan Klein slate. Jordan Klein's been
Jordan Klein all-in button. Let's go. Max entry.
All right. So as is for the year, Cam Thomas, 14 minutes per game, 10 DraftKings points. He's certainly a really strong value play. The fact that I just lock him in, that's probably not something I'm going to be doing, though.
Okay. Kessler Edwards, David Duke Jr., Day'Ron Sharpe. God, I don't even know. I'm trying to figure out how to even like mentally process what these minutes are going to be. I think you just said kind of mid 20s, low 20s. I think the kind of ballparking that sounds about right. But Claxton playing the 5 there. I mean, you got to think Day'Ron Sharp is going to be coming in and doing relief center duty for 20. If you put Claxton for 28, I'm going to get Claxton in an absolute boatload of lineups. Cameron Thomas, I kind of discussed where I think that him and Patty Mills, I just think that they have to be on the floor a ton. David Duke Jr., I mean, Kessler Edwards isn't going to handle the ball at any point in time here. I mean, I'm just trying to figure out how to allocate some of these minutes and get away from a situation where there's 8 players. I mean, you can play 5 Brooklyn Nets on DraftKings now. I think that that's definitely pretty clear, something that you could do in lineups here. But let's go position by position here like we always do. I think that that'll kind of help clean up some of the clutter. And I'm going to fix some of the minutes rotations, wait for some updates as well. And we will all wade through that together. I promise. 49 minutes here until lock. We'll get that starting lineup. Hopefully some good news. But at the top of our ownership right now, we have Derrick Rose. This entire Knicks situation feels secondary. I mean, Cameron Thomas, just a massive play for me here today. Alec Burks, Gary Trent Jr., Chris Paul, Fred VanVleet, Damian Lillard, lots of guards that we can be paying up for now with all of the value that exists with Brooklyn. But talk to me, who you're getting to the most at the guard position.
Oh, I mean, if I'm going to answer the question as it stands, I don't know because I have to see the Nets starting lineup and rework my lineups. But I could say at least here are the guys that I'm pretty positive that I'm going to be getting to at the guard position. Actually, now that we're talking about Derrick Rose, how much is this going to impact the amount of Derrick Rose that you're getting to? Because he was my most exposed player in my earlier run. And I still assume I'm going to get to a healthy amount of them, but there's so much value available on the slate that I assume this is going to take a hit to my exposure to him more than any other player.
So I thought this was going to be a really fun 3-game slate. There was a lot of game theory in play. There's still a lot of game theory in play with JaVale McGee and DeAndre Ayton in the late slate, or in the late night hammer, should I say. And I'm excited to talk to you about those two specifically coming up. But for me, I'm just kind of updating everything as well. I played more volume over on DK. I'm kind of focusing primarily just on there here today. I'm running kind of a dummy crunch at the moment, just kind of putting in 20 minutes as a baseline for all of those extra guys and then filling in the minutes. I mean, I'm just getting way too much Blake Griffin. I'm going to have to temper this down. But right now, Derrick Rose still going to pop up in a really nice amount of my lineups. He's at 5K. I think that just the amount of minute certainty. We know Tibbs and him have a love relationship. No hate, just love. I find it hard to get away from a 5K Derrick Rose, even over on that DraftKings slate. I have to say, though, depending on that Brooklyn starting lineup, I mean, we get Cameron Thomas in that thing. I'm full bore 4K prioritizing him. And I'm going to be able to get up to the ceilings of Chris Paul, Fred VanVleet, Damian Lillard, and try to find paths there because the guard position without James Harden is just a little bit more interesting than it was before, whereas we were all going to be looking at locking in Harden all of 15, 20 minutes ago with Kevin Durant questionable. And now it's kind of flip-flopped on its head where I was prioritizing power forwards to get up to, and now I'm kind of looking at the guard side. So it's completely changed as a slate from that regard. But is there anything you want to add to that? Any guards, though, that for Derrick Rose specifically, anybody else here from this Knicks side that you're getting to in any kind of a quantity?
So from the Knicks, let's see. Let me sort by them and see what pops up. I will say this. Alec Burks is still really popular. Did you see we got an ownership update?
I just refreshed, yes.
Yeah, so I don't like Alec Burks at all now. He is 6,300 on DK. He's projected for 33% ownership. Over on FanDuel, he's 5,600 and projected to be in over 50% of lineups. There's so much value now that I can't see myself getting to Alec Burks in more than half my lineups on FanDuel or more than a third of them on DK. It's really not that difficult to just go stars and scrubs. And I mean, I project him fine points per dollar, but it's not like I look at him as some elite value play. I have him for 31 fantasy points at 6,300 on DK. And he's going to be a third of the field's lineup. So there's a million other places I'd rather go.
I don't hate that at all. I'm an absolute going up against, I short Alec Burks all the time. So it's nothing new for me. That seems to kind of be this is the way. That's kind of the way that I've adopted it for Alec Burks. And on FanDuel, 50%, there's just cheaper plays. I mean, we've got a number of different paths. Bruce Brown was going to be a part of my lineups over there. So I'm not even, I unregistered everything that I could. I'm out of everything on FanDuel. So I'm really focused here on DraftKings. It just has to be done for everybody else so that I can help and be helpful to all of you. That's my Christmas present to you, is that we're going to figure all this mess out. The rest of the guard position here on DK, again, that's going to be where I'm prioritizing. I still want to get to a bunch of Derrick Rose. I'm going to finally put my foot down and say that, yes, I'm going to play a lot of Derrick Rose regardless of what this starting lineup ends up looking like for Brooklyn. But Damian Lillard, 9,700, he kind of is just the pay up to be contrarian spot here. I loved seeing that he could play 37 minutes right out of the gate. I got to be thinking without CJ McCollum. I mean, he was definitely performing on the low end of the spectrum. I think if he went out and played really well, put up a 55 burger or such, you could be looking at him being much more popular than 25% over on DK today. I think he's a guy that I wasn't anticipating getting to before all hell broke loose, but I'm really going to get to him now. Are you looking at getting to him or Chris Paul in some lineups?
Let's see. So I recrunched my lineups, which this is all going to be total shit. The 10 minutes from now, we get another lineup that comes out. So this is something that's certainly going to end up changing. I'm getting to I'm actually getting to more Curry. So Curry has obviously the really high ceiling. And you're talking about pay up to be contrarian. Why not Steph Curry then? Steph Curry is less popular than Damian Lillard. His salary is not any sort of issue right now. FanDuel is totally different. FanDuel, Curry's 10-2. He's going to be really popular. But on DK, I mean, we've got Curry at 11,500. He's projected for 20% ownership, which it's certainly a really steep price tag. But it's not like the ceiling of Steph Curry has changed. He's still somebody with 80 fantasy point upside in a spot where everything goes right for him. I was not getting to Steph Curry at all until we just got this Nets news, but he's just not that difficult to fit in now.
Okay, I don't mind that at all. I mean, I like Damian Lillard just because I have that 1,800, and we'll get to 8, and we'll get to and we'll get to JaVale McGee. That's going to be a very important talking point still, regardless of how everything shakes out here for Brooklyn. But other guards that are getting some attention, especially over on the DraftKings slate here right now, we've got we talked about Alec Burks, Scotty Barnes, I guess, as point guard, small forward eligibility. That's fascinating. Jordan Poole there, somebody that doesn't even really look that fascinating. I mean, for me, we're going to see this starting lineup. Patty Mills, 12.3%. I got to be expecting that's going to come up drastically, right? 5,400 for Patty Mills. He could play 35, 38, 42 minutes. I mean, there's a massive minutes upside for a guy like that in this spot. I think if he ends up being the forgotten guy at 5,400, I'm going to jam a ton. How about you?
I don't have him projected particularly well. I mean, there's a lot of guys out for the Nets, but it's not like he's a crazy good points per minute fantasy performer, and it's a fairly significant price point. That's probably about as expensive as I've ever seen Patty Mills. Like, realistically, what's the ceiling game look like for Patty Mills? He plays 29 minutes per game and averages 21.19 DraftKings points as of now.
That's true. I'm just kind of thinking through how many minutes a guy could be out there for. And if he can just be pretty competent shooting the ball, I mean, there's definitely usage and a lot of numbers to be had in the absence of James Harden. Kevin Durant is going to absorb a ton of that should he be good to go here. And Patty Mills, I'm just kind of thinking through it here, trying to figure out if there's going to be somebody under-owned here on the bottom end. David Duke Jr., I think regardless of what the starting lineup is at 3K, favorite of those three minimum guys, what do you think about them?
What the hell am I having a seizure, or did you just fall into a hallway or something?
What happened?
I think your microphone crapped out. Yeah. It was. Are you cold, Jordan? But that aside, your microphone just all of a sudden was really echoey.
Oh, and then that's great. Am I back?
Talk.
Hello.
Yeah, you're fine now.
Cool.
I don't know what that was, but it became
today is possessed by the devil, is what we're learning.
Yeah,
it's not good.
Now you're James Earl Jones in the Darth Vader suit for a second there. But you were bringing up David Duke Jr., I think, as your sound was cutting out there. And I mean, if we're talking about contrarian guards to get to, I don't know anything about David Duke Jr. I've heard some rumors about his father that are not so nice, but 3,600 on DK, and nobody's playing him right now. There's all these minutes up for grabs for the Nets. And I don't know how to project these cheap guys, but I want to get to more than like 3% of them. We got Day'Ron Sharpe right now, 2% projected ownership. David Duke, 3.8%. Where is Kessler Edwards at? He's at 2%. I mean, these all seem like guys to be way overweight to the field on, even if we don't know anything about him.
Yeah, Day'Ron Sharp got the biggest boost, it looks like. And part of that just comes down to Nicholas Claxton. If he can't play beyond 28 minutes, you get a guy that it's so hard to look at a fantasy point per minute rate, but at least we have a decent sample. He showed up in a couple games here throughout the months of October and November. And I'm seeing him as somebody that was around 1.33 fantasy points per minute. 20 minutes of him is very, very useful if that's going to be the case. David Duke Jr., 0.62. So again, that's more of me just kind of hoping for a bunch of minutes there. I don't know how to project these guys on the bottom end here right now. I'm just going to be absorbing a ton of them. Nicholas Claxton, I've kind of decided 28-20. David Duke Jr., there's definitely a minutes upside to be had. Anybody gets in foul trouble, period, whatsoever, he's probably the guy that gets the most extensive run, can play some different positions. I guess he's point guard, shooting for small forward eligibility. I don't know how that kind of cuts into real life basketball, but whatever. I'm definitely going to be getting to those guys too. So yeah, 2%, 3%, 4%, doesn't matter. We're going to get way over the field on all of those guys. Anybody else at the guard position that's really sticking out for you as somebody that you want to get over the field on with all of the news we have right now?
All right, so let's see where I'm doing with guards, other guys, and also all the ownership I'm looking at now. I have to cross-reference and go back to our page to see where everybody's at. Quickly, I think Quickly is a really, really good pivot off of Derrick Rose. I do not view the two massively different from a projection standpoint. I do have Rose ahead, but not to the point where Quickly should be 13% owned on DK. And Rose should be 32%, especially with Quickly or FanDuel. There's $1,000 more salary to Derrick Rose, but he has 3x the ownership. Over on DK, Rose is 5,000 and projected for 45% ownership. 4,600 for Quickly, projected for 15% ownership. I just don't agree with that spread.
It's just fine. I mean, I'm definitely getting to some Quickly here too as well. I like Derrick Rose a lot. I'm not going to be pretending like I don't, because I'm obsessed with him on this slate. If I can get to him, I will. There's just such certainty with him and his minutes to be able to go 37. I don't think he's going to start here today, but if he does, I mean, that's even more steam ahead there. Manuel Quickly can definitely do things on a basketball floor, has some massive upside shooting the rock, even though 0.84 fantasy points per minute. I don't think that completely expresses what his upside could be there. So 4,600 on DK. I do not hate that play whatsoever. Cameron Payne, not on this slate for me. Don't really think I'm going to be getting there, even though he's over a fantasy point per minute player over the last calendar year here with the Phoenix Suns. He's just been exceptional, but not going to be here on a back-to-back for me. Although now I'm kind of thinking about it. I mean, Chris Paul 8,400 is getting quite a bit of rostership here. It is on a back-to-back, but they put up an absolute dud there against the Clippers last night. I expect Chris Paul to play pretty well here in this spot. 8,400 still too cheap. So maybe a little bit of Cameron Payne. I'm going to actually just cap him because he was somebody that was intriguing just as a pivot, and he's far less intriguing now with so much value that's going to be cheaper than him. But I don't really have anything else from the guard position until we get a starting lineup. We're on the lookout for it. We've got the news god there in the chat, ready to help out with us. While we're at it, 3.6K people. Hit that like button here for us. Greg, anything else you want to talk about at guard?
There's Gary Trent Jr. We can talk about him when we get to small forward also, but I think that he makes, I just saw a starting lineup come in, but not the Nets starting lineup. Who
Raptors.
cares? Any team that isn't the Nets, any team that isn't the Nets starting lineup, it's who cares?
Disregard.
Yeah, exactly. Don't tease me. Another guy, I think Evan Fournier at only 4,300. I know that he sucked for a really extended period of time. It looks like he was an awful signing by the Knicks at this point in time. But once again, we're looking at a guy who's fairly cheap. There's a lot of players out for the Knicks, and there is potential opportunity for him. The DraftKings price in Evan Fournier is only 4,300. We're considering rostering guys like David Duke Jr. today, and it's not like Fournier is that much more expensive than some of these guys that we're talking about. So, I mean, 3,000 versus 4,300, a $1,300 price tag on a slate, or a $1,300 price difference on a slate where salary doesn't really matter. I think that Evan Fournier is somebody else who is worth getting some exposure to.
Yeah, Gary Trent, we had that Raptors starting lineup come through. Van Fleet, Trent Jr., Barnes, Siakam, Boucher, exactly like you would expect it to be. So luckily, there's no surprises there. Boucher we'll get to here at the forward spot. I do want to kind of move along here because I think forward is more intriguing to talk about from the Brooklyn side, from every part of, whether it's Boucher now, just making sure he's always in the starting lineup. You never know in this regard. But one way that you can definitely be equipped to handle this madness, and I'm using to help me equip this to handle all of this madness, is checking out Awesemo Plus tools and projections that are getting updated in real time constantly here to account for a lot of this news here. We just got a Knicks starting lineup. That'll be what we talk about next. But $29.95 here for the weekly pass. Check it out. I promise you, you won't be disappointed. And now you can get this all for 25% off your first week of Awesemo Plus Platinum with the promo code NBA Live, all caps, one word. Check it out. Not just NBA, but NFL as well. We've got so many great tools and projections over there. MMA top fighter tool in the NFL. We have the boom bust as well, but we also have the top stacks tool, which is so helpful. The top showdown plays. That'll be fantastic for Thursday, a gigantic game, Chiefs, Chargers. If you want to have the tools to be able to handle that, use this NBA Live promo code, get 25% off that $29.95 weekly pass, and stop guessing and start winning. Join Awesemo Plus today. All right, we got a starting lineup there from the Knicks, and our boy Derrick Rose is in it. That's helpful. Or my boy Derrick Rose, you're less so, but Derrick Rose, Alec Burks, Evan Fournier, Randall Noel. I didn't know what they were going to do here, but obviously Burks just got slid right back into the starting unit here. No issues with that. What do you think about this starting lineup, and does it change anything for you with Derrick Rose?
No, it was as expected. I think that Rose certainly a strong play in cash games, even in tournaments. I don't have an issue getting to him. I just think there are good pivot plays to be had on the Knicks, with Emmanuel quickly being one of them.
All righty, let's go to the forward position, because Kevin Durant is at the forward position currently on DraftKings, pulling 51.9% rostership. He's 11,600. Yeah, he's expensive. If he's in the starting unit, I'm going to play 100%. How about you?
Yeah, I have no qualms about that whatsoever. He's by far the best pay up option on the slate. Actually, I'm kind of curious. I didn't even think to look at this because it didn't matter to me. I just locked in Kevin Durant, but we might as well talk about what his rates are this season when you take take James Harden off the court. What's that?
Oh, I said they're fun. They're fun. Both of them without each other are really, really fun fantasy assets.
Yeah, but that's the other thing too, is it just didn't matter to me exactly what the numbers were, because I knew it's at 37.2% usage rate. He scores 61.48 DraftKings points per 36 minutes, and I assume he plays closer to 40 minutes today than 36 anyway. I'm actually kind of interested just to look at some of these other guys. Day'Ron Sharpe this year, such small sample sizes, 35 minutes this year, 31.5% usage rate with Harden off the court. Kessler Edwards, 22% usage rate with Harden off the court this year. But I'm playing Durant in all my lineups. I think everybody should be doing the same.
Day'Ron Sharpe, 25% rebound percentage with James Harden off the floor in his 35 minutes. That's kind of fascinating. I know it's like blowout duty, but like I really don't care. That's a pretty large number to be looking at. I am very intrigued by him. I think out of the three guys, I'm starting to gravitate towards getting some of him. But Kevin Durant, obviously, that was a major talking point. Another major talking point here at the forward position on the top end is Julius Randle. I don't even know how much I'm going to get here as I'm kind of shoring up some of my lineups, but somebody that I was really high on simply because I thought he was a pay up to get away from some of the guards. I thought that, there was going to be some value with Bruce Brown Jr. Well, we don't have that. We don't have any value. I mean, Cam Thomas is still going to probably be a massive part of my lineups, but he's on the bottom end there. Julius Randle, 36% over on FanDuel. He's really, really cheap. And so I think he's obviously a really good play there, but at 9,200, are you getting to any on DraftKings today?
Oh, yeah, a ton. There's so much value at guard. And in the front court, there is too. We've got Nick Claxton. We've got Blake Griffin. But in general, there's so much. We've got Cam Thomas. Talked about Derrick Rose before. Then there's also guys, we got David Duke to play at guard as well. So it's a lot. It's very easy to save money at guard and pay up at forward. So with that in mind, I found it very easy to get to Julius Randle, particularly at a somewhat reduced salary.
Yeah, 9,200. I mean, that thing's been trailing back down. He was a 10K player as recent as a week ago against Indiana. We were paying 10K for him at times here. And sure, the production is really, really tempered off here. But against Golden State, I think that this is a spot where Julius Randle can definitely succeed here. Still a 1.2 fantasy point per minute guy. 35 minutes of him here. I'm going to get a bunch of him in lineups, it looks like, as I'm kind of finishing all of that up. But now we get to the Brooklyn portion of the program here. Blake Griffin here, 3,400 28.5 minutes is the minute projection that we have for him. He's played 26, 25 minutes here, and that was middle November. It's been over a month here. He was out of the rotation. He had only appeared twice. He's only appeared twice in the month of December here. We have him projected for 28.5 minutes, and I think that I'm kind of cautiously optimistic about it because he is 3,400. He's still a guy that, 0.8 fantasy points per minute. If you project him out at that number, it's fantastic, but something tells me he might get more attention than that. How are you valuing Blake Griffin in the context of this Brooklyn team?
He's my favorite value play. Actually, I'll take that back. Nick Claxton is my favorite value play. Blake Griffin is my second favorite value play on the Nets right now. And he's still somebody who we've seen be a competent points per minute fantasy producer. I mean, last year, 25.8 minutes per game, scored 23.94 DraftKings points. This year, less so, 20.6, 16.12 fantasy points per minute. But keep in mind, when he was playing earlier in the season, he was starting alongside James Harden and Kevin Durant. This is a massive amount of just minutes, but also usage that opens up now for this team. And Blake Griffin is somebody who I think could shoulder some of that load and also play a facilitator role. Because you look at this team right now and who's going to be handling the ball and running the Nets offense. It's not like the ball is going to be in Kevin Durant's hands 100% of the time. And Blake Griffin really could be that secondary creator for them. So I do like Blake Griffin quite a bit.
Nets starting lineup. It's here. Patty Mills, Duke Jr., welcome to the program. Kevin Durant, Blake Griffin, Nicholas Claxton. First reaction to seeing Duke Jr. in the starting lineup.
It's what can we say? Like, oh my God, I can't believe the Nets didn't start Cam Thomas. Like maybe I'm sure.
Jordan Klein might have something else to say about that. Jordan Klein, hey, don't let Greg talk and diss your boy like that.
No, I mean, considering the whole situation, there's jokes we made about. There's jokes we made about Jordan's get up right now in his apparel. But that aside, like with David Duke starting, I have to like him a lot as a value play.
Teletubbies. He looks like a Teletubby. That's what he looks like. It's the blue Teletubby. Put the blue Teletubby up on the screen next to. I'm going to screenshot this quick while he's in frame.
Yeah, when we have is he on camera now?
No, I'm going to screenshot
is Jordan on camera.
Look at this. We need the blue Teletubby with this. This is just miraculous. You're a beautiful specimen, Jordan Klein. We missed you. Did you get any sunshine in Vegas or were you indoors the whole time? Indoors? Yeah, the whole time. That's generally how it works. All right. Let's see here. Duke Jr. I just think that, just being able to know that he's in the starting lineup there, he's going to see the floor a lot anyway. Everybody's going to see the floor a lot, I would assume, out of an 8-man rotation here. And this game is going. And so we're just going to have to adjust here for it. David Duke Jr., we had projected for 27 minutes already. I think that sounds about appropriate. I don't want to go any higher than that, or I'm going to get a massive allocation of it. People might be flocking, though, towards David Duke Jr. And I think I'm just going to play a ton of Cam Thomas. I think Cam Thomas probably comes in, for the 6 minutes that Kevin Durant is on the bench, or 5 minutes, whatever it's going to be here today. I'm going to play more Cam Thomas. I don't think he's going to go overlooked, but just that he's not in the starting lineup and David Duke Jr. is, I'm just going to be jamming a bunch of Cam Thomas. I think that feels like the right play. Just knowing how rostership works, how people are going to fluctuate and react strongly to that lineup. And Cameron Thomas at 1 point, what is it for the season? Yeah, 1.78. So just a little bit better, not much better here than David Duke Jr. 0.15 better. That's substantial enough. I'm going to have some David Duke Jr. for sure, but Cameron Thomas becomes my favorite guy now in terms of value plays to just play a ton of, because I just don't think he'll be rostered to the extent we have. 36.3%. Maybe he will. What do you think about him now as a play?
I mean, I like him a little bit less, but I mean, when we came into this, I was not totally sold on what the Nets minutes were going to be for some of these ancillary pieces who typically don't play a lot. And I was already kind of spreading my exposure around a little bit. I don't think this is going to change anything too massively for me, just from a standpoint of like, what do I do with minutes here? Am I supposed to just say, oh, David Duke Jr. goes out and plays 35 minutes. Cam Thomas plays 35 minutes. I don't know. I think all of them play probably somewhere about the same amount of minutes. I know you had said that you were going to play Cam Thomas in all of your lineups before. Is that still the case?
Pretty close. I mean, I don't have the 37.5 minutes we have projected for him right now. I'm assuming that's going to come down a little bit here for us. I already had him at 33. I think he's going to have to be on the floor for around 33 minutes. And I think that's kind of on the low end of the projection. So I'm happy to get to a ton of Cam Thomas and be double that field, 36.3%. If that's where he's going to be coming in at, people want to play all the David Duke Jr. I'll find that extra $1,000 to get to a guy who's a little bit better fantasy point per minute performer. Get to a guy that might be not overlooked. Nobody on Brooklyn's going to be overlooked whatsoever. I mean, shit, Kessler Edwards and Day'Ron Sharpe are going to be garnering a ton of attention. So there's no problem that I have getting to any of those guys that are coming off the bench. And Cameron Thomas, by far my favorite. Going to be by far my favorite out of all of them here. Not that I don't like Day'Ron Sharpe, because again, 1.33 fantasy points per minute, kind of a ridiculous number to be looking at. Super small sample, and when you come in for cleanup duty, it's going to be different than being on a floor alongside Kevin Durant. But just throwing it out there that I think Cameron Thomas is still going to be a massive part of my lineups. Let's go back to the forward position.
I want to ask you a question. Who do you think ends up being more popular today, Cam Thomas or David? I still assume Cam Thomas is going to be way more popular than David Duke. You do?
Yeah. I don't think way. I think probably what we're looking at is I don't even want to like ballpark projection because I think it's going to be so much higher. We got a refreshed roster shape here too. I'm looking at 71.9% Nicholas Claxton. I think he's going to be massively popular. Kevin Durant, 68.4 on DK. Cam Thomas, there we go. Now we're talking 56% for Cam Thomas. Now I can kind of like look a little bit lighter here. David Duke Jr., 26.4. I mean, if he's going to be doubly more popular than David Duke Jr., yeah, I'm going to be guarding kind of shying away from as much Cam Thomas as I had before, but I kind of needed to see that verified to kind of be able to make more of an appropriate stand for it. But Cam Thomas will be in at least half my lineups anyway.
Yeah, I once again, points per dollar, I don't think he's a bad play. I just don't think there's a massive difference between guys like Cam Thomas or David Duke Jr. I just don't. I don't think any of these guys have. I don't think we should be super confident all of a sudden, like, oh, it was a great DFS play, Kessler Edwards or Cam Thomas. These are guys earlier in the day we were not considering at all, and I'm just going to be. I'm getting to a lot. I'm going to get to a lot of all these guys, but there's not one that I look at and be like, oh, that is the guy. If you have to play if you're looking for a couple of them to play in cash games, I'd feel the best about David Duke and Cam Thomas out of the backcourt just because of their price points. Cam Thomas has been in the rotation. David Duke is starting. In the front court, I feel good about Blake Griffin because he's starting. Realistically, cash games, I think you're playing Durant, Claxton, Thomas, Griffin, and David Duke.
I think so too. You're playing 4 and probably 5. That's, you're definitely playing 4 on FanDuel. There's no way around it. You're playing Claxton, you're playing Durant, you're playing Griffin, you're playing whomever else you want there, probably Cam Thomas. It just kind of makes sense. 4,100 there in fan. Yeah, you're playing Cam Thomas. So I think it makes sense. I think we've covered that here. I feel good about my exposures now with Brooklyn. I was not feeling so good about it. And yes, I say roster ship sometimes because I think there's other sites that we do a lot of stuff for that prefer that word. And so sometimes I get in the habit of saying it. I don't have a problem with the word ownership, but some of the sites that I do shows for, they prefer that I use rostership. And so I kind of have it go in and out. So my apologies if that bothers you. It shouldn't. It's not that big of a deal. Let's jump on over here to the rest of the forward position. Chris Boucher in the starting lineup. He's now down to 18.1%. If people are going to be shying away because you're getting to more Brooklyn Nets, and yeah, you should probably be getting there. 18.1% for Chris Boucher, coming off of a win where he didn't need to play in crunch time, but he played the closing minutes against the Knicks. That was exciting to see. Got up to 27 minutes. Yesterday was a blowout against Sacramento. Chris Boucher is just, it's impossible for me not to be over the field. Still on a 4,800 Chris Boucher here, sub 20%. What are you doing with him and the rest of this Toronto forward situation?
Yeah, so guys like Scotty Barnes, Gary Trent Jr., Pascal Siakam, I find them all pretty easy to get to. Siakam's actually one I have the most interest in just because I project him fairly well, and salary's gone out the window now. I could play whoever the hell I want right now. Pascal Siakam is somebody who makes sense to me today. Chris Boucher, I'm overweight to the field on him. He was going to be somebody who was in so many of my lineups earlier today. Now he's in about a third of my lineups just because there's so many other players to consider. So I don't have an issue with Chris Boucher, But if you're trying to pick one cheap forward to play, I do have more exposure to Blake Griffin than I do to Chris Boucher.
All right, that's fair. You're saving a lot of money going down. And again, Chris Boucher, it's just more to speak about his upside. I think that there's a ton of upside still at the 4,800 number. So I'm definitely going to be over 20% on him. No doubt about it. Ranging around mid 30s%. And I'm happy to kind of get there and make that a little bit larger stand there. He's still grading out really, really nicely. And our projection still looks really, really nice there. Kessler Edwards there at 3K, obviously 23 minutes. That sounds like about the right projection. I think low 20s sounded about right for him. We have just really no idea of knowing. There's a range of outcomes, but I got to be thinking low 20s is the right way of looking at him. Kessler Edwards, the rest of those guys, we talked about Toronto, Draymond Green, just horrible projection for him over on DK here. FanDuel, maybe a little bit intriguing. Are you getting to any Draymond whatsoever? Because he feels like a guy that in the Garden, triple-double, we know he can kind of get there in that regard, but I just don't find him necessary on this slate.
Or the same amount of fantasy points every slate. Unless it's a Warriors blowout, you're getting 28 to 32 fantasy points out of Draymond Green. It's just not enough to win on this particular slate. There was one game against the Phoenix Suns. 2 weeks ago? He scored 51 fantasy points. Other than that, though, if you go to Fantasy Crunch and you look at his box score, he's generally 28 to 32 fantasy points every single game. If you play him at 6,900 and he scores 32 fantasy points, most slates are kind of like, whatever, not great, but it's not like it murdered a lineup. It's no good for today. There's too many good points per dollar plays, and he's a little bit too expensive.
Agreed. All right, let's talk the late night hammer. Let's talk Phoenix, Portland. The center position will have more of a conversation, but for the time being, Norman Powell, Larry Nance Jr., those two guys sitting, still grading out really nicely here. Are they still making the cut for you? They're not super cheap. They're not the guys that are going to be playing 30 plus minutes here for Brooklyn, but Norman Powell, I still have around 35 minutes, and we know he can be very, very active shooting the ball from time to time. Larry Nance Jr. Ended up in that starting rotation for the first time here this entire season. And I think he's still going to be somebody that I get to in a number of lineups because there's more of a minutes upside to be had there. How are you kind of looking at this Portland forward position?
Yeah, I don't really like Norman Powell. We've got, a couple of things. Number one, we've got Damian Lillard back in the mix now for Portland. That's a massive hit to the usage rate of Norman Powell. So last game, he played a bunch of minutes against Minnesota, still played 38.5 minutes, but only a 17.5% usage rate. As long as Damian Lillard's in the lineup alongside him, that's going to come down. Also, Norman Powell's more expensive than he was a couple of weeks ago. The other thing to consider, brutal matchup against the Phoenix Suns. So I don't really look at Norman Powell with all the value we just got as somebody who I'm looking to get to.
Anything else for you from the forward position? Because then I want to definitely make sure we have enough time to talk about center because I think it's an important talking point for this slate.
No, Durant's in all my lineups. That takes up a bunch of the forward spots. Mm-hmm. Randall and Siakam, I think, are both really strong secondary pay-up options. Then we've got value to look at. David Duke Jr. with small forward eligibility, Blake Griffin, Chris Boucher, and there just aren't a lot of those guys in the mid-range that I have a desire to play.
All right, that's fair enough. Also fair is everybody heading to Jock Market because why don't you like free money? If you don't like free money, probably get out of here because you're a crazy person. But use promo code Awesemo, AWESEMO. It's all over the screen. It's on our YouTube channel. You can put that in and get $50 bonus on your first deposit right now at Jock Market. They have a pregame IPO phase going on right now. It's absolutely bonkers to go pick up some shares here right now. I would be picking up as many of these Brooklyn Nets as you possibly could on the bottom end, so long as they're not going extremely, extremely expensive here at the moment. Very excited to be doing this live with you guys here for this extra half hour that Greg and I are going to be doing, talking everything live that's reacting to this Brooklyn game. I think there's going to be a lot of value that we can extract and make by reacting to that game live. But check out Jock Market, buy and sell shares of players in real time for real cash money. Not just NBA markets. They have NFL, they have NHL, they'll have PGA when that gets back here as well. Looking forward to talking about this with you all. Go to the pregame IPO though now and try to get some of those shares. You can generally get some of those players a little bit cheaper now than you will be later, but we're still going to be able to extract some value together. And if it's your very first time playing over there, they have a first market guarantee. That means that any losses you incur up to $100 will be refunded on your first market. So if you want to go try it out today, if you want to see what Jock Market is about, head over, use promo code Awesemo for $50 bonus. put your $50 in play there too. And if you lose anything, out of that 100, you'll get it refunded. No questions asked. And we have free projections to utilize over on the site. It doesn't get a lot easier than that. Pretty simple to use Awesemo's projections, to be able to react in real time as an analyst, to be able to see what's happening in a game, see rotations, if somebody gets 2 quick fouls, being able to buy or sell shares quickly in real time. It's a lot of fun. I'm excited to talk about it with you guys afterwards. So thank you so much to Jock Market for their sponsorship of the Live Before Lock show here today. We really, really appreciate it. All right, let's get to the center position, because we, of course, have another slate where JaVale McGee could be one of the best value plays here on the board. He could also be a decent value, is probably the right way of putting it. There's a lot of slates where I've just been jamming JaVale McGee over and over again in hopes that he ends up being the guy there. Had like 90-something% yesterday. He ended up being a phenomenal play over on DK, where I had more exposure. FanDuel, maybe a little bit of disappointing, but he surely wasn't the reason that you probably lost over there. Nikola Jokic, definitely probably the reason you lost over there. But talk to me about this situation. Do you believe that DeAndre Ayton gives it a go tonight?
So I've built my lineups as if Ayton is playing. I have exposure to Ayton. If he's out, then obviously I'll swap off him and roster somebody else from those later games. But as of now, I'm assuming Ayton is playing. Ayton has been listed as questionable to play for the last few games. He's not dealing with the joint injury. This isn't a knee. It's a non-COVID illness. And it doesn't seem to be like any kind of super serious illness or anything like that. So considering they've continued to list him as questionable and rule him out late, I think it's a thing where they've just been trying to feel it out. Like, hey, how are you feeling as we get closer to the game? And it's been enough days that I think he's probably going to be okay to play. Now, I'm not a doctor. You're not a doctor. Jordan might be. I'm pretty sure that's what doctors wear. But it's just a situation where I think he's been getting closer to a return, or else they would have ruled him out earlier in days. So I'm assuming Ayton's playing, and I do like getting exposure to him as a contrarian tournament option.
This is the first time that I'm with you. I think this is the slate where maybe it's just like a feel thing, where if it's like 3 games of a non-COVID illness, I think he's got to be good to go here at this point. It just feels like the slate where he's probably going to go. And here's the thing. JaVale McGee was going to be way, way underutilized last slate. He was going to be way, way underutilized, yesterday. So the 2 slates that we've been able to utilize JaVale McGee, he's come at a stark discount. There is a massive opportunity cost to giving up some of the exposure to the early games. And there's an opportunity cost in terms of the position in the event that Ayton plays. I want to be able to get up to Ayton. And in the event that he doesn't, it's pretty easy to pivot to Nurkic. And Nurkic is very, very freaky, I think, on this slate for a lot of people. He's 6K on FanDuel. So I understand why people want to play a ton of him over there. That's just fine by me. But on DK, 7,300, he would be more of a last resort in lineups that I couldn't possibly get to McGee and trying to swap there. He'd be a last resort, but I'm really freaked out looking at his box score from this last game. He ended up getting pulled out there. He ended up having 2 really bad turnovers. I was watching that game up against the Timberwolves, and they ended up pulling him. He only played 3.5 minutes in the fourth quarter. They brought back in Robert Covington to close that game. They went small, even against, the Karl Anthony Towns. You would think being more of a true center, a guy who, you can play on the perimeter, but would definitely be more of a matchup for Nurkic. I'm just really confused what Nurkic's place is here underneath Chauncey Billups. How do you view Nurkic with Ayton in, with Ayton out? How are you viewing him on this slate?
I just can't get exposure to somebody who's still expensive and isn't playing very many minutes. I still like Nurkic. I think he's a really good, I know he's a really good points minute fantasy producer. I still think he's a really good real life player. He's playing 24.5 minutes per game this year, averaging 32 DraftKings points. But what's the realistic upside in somebody who's generally playing mid-20s minutes? It's hard for me to get to him when there's so much value on the slate, and it's not hard to pay up. So I'm just going to be looking elsewhere. Something else to consider too with the Chauncey Billups Portland Trailblazers team. Listen to how deep their rotation was last game. They went to Lillard, Simons, Covington, Larry Nance, Powell, McLemore, Nurkic, then Little, Watford, Snell, and Dennis Smith Jr. all played minutes as well. So this is a really, really deep roster, and he's trying to give minutes. Well, not deep in terms of talent, but deep in terms of he's playing a lot of these guys minutes. And that's something else that hurts Nurkic. He's trying to get playing time to all these guys. I can't play Nurkic. Oh, by the way, foul trouble was also an issue last game.
Yeah, there was a little bit of it there, but I mean, it was just a blatant, we are benching him to finish out the fourth. It was a blatant, they benched him. So, It wasn't like he picked up a foul there. He had a turnover. He picked up a personal foul, at the 5:43 mark. He had a turnover that they just kind of flipped out and brought Covington back in. And of course, it was Bob Covington's like one good game that he's had in forever, coming off of the bench in a spot where he was playing behind Nance, came in and was much more efficient after he kind of had a strange rotation there, a strange game. That was just kind of a weird game. I'm going to write off more of it. I still have Nurkic for 28 minutes. He's a last resort in the event that Ayton doesn't play in some of those lineups that I can't land on McGee or that I don't have 2 roster spots, because there's a very strong possibility that you're going to get stuck with some lineups that only have 1 roster spot in that evening game, which is kind of freaky, but that's what happens when you have 8 players on a floor for a 7:30 Eastern time tip-off. So other centers you could be looking at, of course, JaVale McGee. If you wanted to do the same thing we've been doing the last couple of days and jam in a ton in the hopes that you get him, I mean, he's way, way, way underpriced, 4,200. He would be the best piece of value, even amongst Brooklyn on the entire slate if we knew that Ayton was out now. So I have no problem if you want to be going his direction. Is there anybody else at the center position that you're getting to in any kind of a meaningful way?
Let's see. Other guys, the center position. No, because so many of the guys we've talked about, well, Day'Ron Sharpe, we haven't brought him up yet, but
okay.
He's cheap, and I think he's going to have to play some minutes today. Roster him. He's worth being in the player pool. But other than that, a lot of the guys we've talked about also have power forward eligibility. Claxton, I think, is kind of a no-brainer to get to today. But then there's also Randall, Siakam, we've talked about, Blake Griffin, we've talked about, Chris Boucher, we've talked about. So we've really covered my center exposures. Is there anybody that you think we're missing? We got some questions in the Discord channel we could answer.
Well, yeah, Nicholas Claxton. I mean, he's kind of not even a talking about 3,100. You should have a lot of Nicholas Claxton. I don't know what to say. How much you want to have? That is up to personal preference, but I think the answer is have an absolute ton. How much are you getting to on both sites?
Yeah, he's in nearly all my lineups. He's so cheap, and he's a good points from a fantasy producer. And this could tie into one of the questions we got in Discord from Rabashua. He said, would you diminish Claxton given how much of his scoring comes from Harden lobs? I mean, I don't know the exact percentage of Claxton buckets that are assisted by James Harden. I don't even have Claxton projected for a lot of real points today, but I have him projected for double-digit rebounds. I have him projected for actually nearly 4 steals plus blocks today now that I'm looking at it. And that's really what makes me want to get to him. It's not the scoring, it's the rebounding and the defensive stats. It's not that I project him for 0 points, but I mean, you could get eight real-life points out of Nick Claxton. He scores over 30 fantasy points.
Totally. It was just something that I had brought up on Sunday when I was talking about the situation where it just eyeball test. And again, I didn't have anything that I was looking at to back it up analytically, but it seems like there's always a 2-man game going back to the playoffs where Nicholas Claxton really does kind of rely on James Harden to get him some easy buckets. Something that just seems like they had a pretty good rapport together. It was surprising that Claxton had kind of fallen out of favor with Nash and wasn't really in there in a meaningful way. Millsap started sneaking in. Blake Griffin dropped out. It was just kind of some different rotations that they were doing. But Nicholas Claxton, once he got reinserted, it seemed as though it was right back where it left off from last year's postseason, where Claxton was finishing at the rim just by James Harden constantly setting him up. So something that I just brought up Sunday. So I'm glad that he brought that up here. D'Angelo Russell, questionable for Wednesday. I do not care. That is something I don't care about. We have 6 minutes to go here. We covered pretty much everything position by position. Make sure you get your lineups in, everybody. Again, we don't want to pull an Eric Lindquist. Don't do that. That'd be very, very bad. We don't need anybody crying on air. Actually, Greg probably disagrees with that. He would love to see that.
Oh, there's not many things I like more than a good Eric breakdown while we're in the middle of the show. Are you doing okay with your lineups though?
If I'm just finishing everything up. I'm just getting them all in, and then we'll be able to fire up. You have Discord open, so if there's other questions in Discord, let's fire those up.
We also have a super chat here from Darren Unger, who's saying for FanDuel, Damian Lillard, Blake Griffin, Yusuf Nurkic, or Mills, Boucher, and Siakam. I don't love Nurkic today, but I prefer Dame and Blake Griffin to Mills and Boucher. So Dame and Blake Griffin and Nurkic for me.
All right. And I like Mills a little bit more than you simply because he's sub 20. He's sub 20% right now over on DK, and we're gonna have to get to a lot of them on FanDuel. I'm probably not going to play. What's his tag over on FanDuel? He's 5,300 or something today. I saw. It's like a ridiculous number. Yeah.
Mills has the same salary on FanDuel and DK, I think.
Oh, okay. Never mind. Well, there you go.
He's 5,400 on DK and 5,400 on FanDuel.
Oh, there you go. Well, whatever. He's going to play a ton of minutes. I love Boucher. That's kind of the other tournament guy that I'm trying to side with a little bit more. But I think if you're just asking one lineup there, Dame, Griffin, Nurkic, I think is the right answer. Let's keep it on moving here. Anything else here? It's not an Eric Lindquist meltdown until I see tears. You guys don't want to see that. You say you want to see that.
We do.
You really don't.
Oh, no. The funny thing is people say they want to see it, and then they actually say like, "Oh my God, this is terrible." Like people do have an aggressively negative reaction to seeing it actually play out. But in theory, it ends up being fun. We do another. Greg. Yeah, it's another question here. Oh, we had a super chat come through.
Oh, another one here. We got garbage time blowout scenarios in Brooklyn tonight. The 3-3K guys play a boatload of minutes, but you're going to need to have two guys on the floor still. My blowout scenario would just be Kevin Durant, first guy that would be off the floor, but I think you want to be playing like 100% Kevin Durant with us. Just a feeling. And then the next guy that I think would be the first guy off the floor, probably Patty Mills. So those would be your
Blake
two.
Griffin.
Blake Griffin. Oh, yeah, because he's old and dusty. I forgot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, so the 5-man garbage time lineup, I don't think is very difficult to figure out. Cam Thomas, David Duke, Kessler Edwards, Day'Ron Sharpe, and Nick Claxton.
Yep. There you go. We figured it out all together here. All together now, birds of a feather now. My lineups are in with 4 minutes to spare. I love it. I'm going to head over to the Discord myself, see if there's anything kind of lurking over there that we can talk about. And then we're not going anywhere. We're going to want to look at some rostership, some ownership, whatever you want to call it, guys. We're going to be looking at some of that here, and we will be figuring out exactly what we're cheering for. Because I'm cheering for every Brooklyn Net. It seems like underneath the sun. Looking at the premium basketball. Oh, last man in. Claxton, Noel, or someone else, 3,700. You want to play Claxton.
Yeah, so under 3,700. I mean, it depends who else he has in his lineup. But so Claxton. Do I have Claxton or Blake? Yeah, Claxton. I was just wondering, maybe I'd Blake Griffin project for more fantasy points, but I do not because I know Blake Griffin's more expensive, but Claxton pretty clearly.
A lot of people freaking out, saying that Julius Randle is going to ruin their lineups tonight. Yeah, he's probably going to ruin mine too. At least half of them. That's how it works. He's pretty good at doing that. 3 minutes left here. The irony of David Duke. Yeah, we don't want to talk about that name anymore. Well, DDJ. So we have Dennis Smith Jr., DSJ. We can go DDJ for David Duke Jr. I think that's a more effective way of doing that. I saw somebody else. I would give you the credit in the event, but DDJ sounds good to me. How about that?
It's his name. What are you going to do? It's not like,
I know.
It's not like we're trying to be controversial. It's what his name. It's what his parents decided would be a nice name for him growing up as a boy.
Yeah, there's that. I'm trying to abbreviate his name into 3 letters. It was somebody else's idea. I was just running with it because I thought it was a very appropriate, nice idea. Okay. I'm just, it is. I'm a person who I want everybody to get along. Douglas Bowman, $4.99. I don't know if I missed my first super chat or not. Haha. But Curry, Duke, or Lillard, Boucher, single tourney. I don't know how to decipher that. Curry, Duke, or Lillard, Boucher. Okay, that's
2v2.
Yeah, Lillard, Boucher for me.
Lillard, Boucher for me as well.
All right. Guys, we've got 1 minute here to go. Greg, any final words for this slate here before we have 2 of the 3 games locked?
Let's go Nets. Actually, not even let's go Nets. I have more money wagered on the Raptors than I do in the Nets in this entire for DFS anyway. So let's go Raptors plus 8.5. But that aside, let's get a bunch of value plays from the Nets.
I absolutely love it. I'm excited to talk a little bit of ownership here with you all. Once we get the lock here, we are just about there. By the time you hear this, we'll probably be there. My gosh, what a crazy slate. Hit that like button if you guys are going to be hitting eject, but don't hit eject because we're going to be talking Jock Market right now. Do we have the Jock Market bell? Because I'm excited for that. 1 second. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. Did I interrupt you at your job? Was that trolling? Was that intentional or was that an accident? That was intentional, wasn't it?
No, I think that's a good new bell though. I like it.
The Jock Market bell is me duck calling.
I don't like I don't like ducks as much as you, but no, I think that's a good intro.
It's gonna blow up. Yeah. See, there you go. Chat blowing up. Look at what you've done. Look what you've done. You've made a fool. Whatever. Greg Ehrenberg talked to me about some ownership over on FanDuel here as you're looking at your contest. As it starts to update, I will be doing the same here. It's just, you guys are the worst.
I don't know. I only ended up playing lineups on DraftKings today. There was no way I was going to be able to manage lineups on multiple sites with this, but I do have DK pulled up right now.
Yeah.
So here's actually less ownership in the $4 than I was expecting. Feel pretty good about this. Guess Kevin Durant's ownership in the $4 on DK.
Let's go with, well, I guess I could just kind of look at my lineups and then I could just cheat the system. 57.7% if I had to guess. Literally, it's the only thing I saw. You did that to me last time. Do you not remember? Do you not remember?
No, I would never cheat unlike you. Never. Cam Thomas is still really popular, 43%. David Duke, only 23%. Let's go David Duke.
Wow. Okay. Patty Mills, 22.9%. Cam Thomas, 42.7%. Oh, God. Giannis health protocols listed out for Wednesday. Oh, dude, my God.
These next couple of weeks of the holiday season are going to be an absolute disaster. Let's see if any, really quickly checking to see if any books have lines up for tomorrow's games or not.
Chris Middleton, knee listed questionable for Wednesday. If you can get in and invest on the other side, who's Milwaukee even playing?
There's no lines up for tomorrow.
That's a bummer.
There are no books that are going to have the balls to place lines up well in advance, considering what's going on right now.
All right. Julius Randle, 29.6% there in that $4 as well. Nicholas Claxton, 44.2% in the $4. What are we talking about here? What is that? That can't be real. That is real. I'm literally looking at it. That is shocking to me. I would say Steph Curry, 37% sounds about appropriate there. Sharp. I'm
surprised he's that popular.
You're surprised that he is?
That Curry's
Claxton is that popular?
No, Curry.
70%.
No, Curry.
Oh, I thought it was about. I mean, it's exactly what you talked about, where we had a ton of salary at our disposal and people were paying up for the ceiling or paying up for raw points. I think you could easily play raw points. So as long as you get some of these other guys, I cannot believe Claxton is not over 50%. That is insanity to me.
So here's the other side of that with Steph Curry. We have Curry projected for 20% ownership. I bumped him up because I thought he was going to be more contrarian. But all of these plays that we thought were going to be super popular from the Nets, even if they're not as popular as we thought they were going to be. So with that in mind, it's surprising to me that Steph Curry has become this popular. Curry is almost, well, not almost the same ownership, kind of comparable ownership to Kevin Durant when he shouldn't, in my opinion.
That's fair. Well, let's talk some Jock Market here, everybody. We had talked about it a little bit on the front end of the show. We have free projections on Awesemo.com. All you do is head over to the NBA tab. You go over to the projections, and at the very bottom of that projections tab, you have the free Jock Market NBA DFS IPO pricing projections. It's simple as that. It takes 2 seconds. You're able to throw it together, and you are all set to go. Kevin Durant, I don't think anybody's going to be questioning that he is the guy that you need to get. And I apologize. I'm always on my phone during this because it is the easiest app to be using on your phone, but that is the only spot that you're going to be playing over on Jock Market here. So I'm looking at the projections, checking out the NBA daily market, and Kevin Durant, $18.61 here. Our fair price, I think everything got a little bit distorted simply because of how many Brooklyn Nets were out there towards the end of that slate. But I still think 18.22 is a little bit low for a guy that I think a majority of the time is going to finish in that $25 spot at first. Would you still invest in Kevin Durant at this number?
Let's see. What do we have for a fair IPO price for Kevin Durant? And that will make it a little bit easier for me to figure out. I got booted out of the thing. I've got to remember my password. What'd you say the asking price is?
Right now, it is 1902 is where it went to. Just in the last second. It was 1865. Now it's 1902. A good year. Some would call that a good year.
Yeah, so here's the issue with the 1902 salary. The payout structure on Jock Market. If a player comes in first, top scoring player on the entire slate, you get $25 back per share. For the second high score, you get $20. Even if Durant is the top scorer on the slate, you're only making back an extra $6 per share at that point. I just don't know that. I just don't know that it's worth it to take on any kind of risk at that point.
That's fair. I mean, you would just need a large bankroll on Jock Market, something like with what Alex was doing in baseball, where it was to not hit a home run projections. Well, you're getting in good in that kind of a regard. I'm pulling up that game here. We'll start tracking as we're going here. Obviously, the Golden State New York game got going. Steph Curry is one away from the 3-point record here. He had a 3 right out of the gate. So that'll be a fun one to kind of track. Derrick Rose makes a layup here. I'm going to be tracking Derrick Rose pretty intently here. Nerlens Noel with 2 and 3. He just got another board, 2 and 4 for Nerlens Noel here, 3 minutes into the game. Excuse me, Nerlens Noel, I'm trying to find here on the bottom end what we're looking at, because that might be a guy to be investing in really, really quickly. $6.12. That's way too expensive for Nerlens Noel. I already know, just based on what our projections have been for Noel here lately. $3.70 was his fair IPO price. Yeah, he's off to a really nice start, but not a very high fantasy point per minute guy. If he starts, if he puts up a block or two, maybe, but I'm not looking at getting to him. Anybody else that you might be looking at based on this start of the Golden State New York game?
Yeah, Jordan, because he put a hat on over his stupid hood.
What? Oh, he was so butthurt. He couldn't take it anymore. Oh, spend one day in front of a camera, have a YouTube chat coming at you mercilessly, and let me know how you sleep at night. Okay, Jordan Klein, let me know how you feel in the morning. Okay. Some of us are a little bit more sensitive than other people too. Maybe I'm one of those people, Jordan Klein.
Jordan's all excited because he's got a friend at his apartment there. He's got his sweatshirt, which he's eating during the show. You really bug me, Jordan. You bug me.
All right, we're 7 minutes in here. I guess I have to address Loco with the super chat in the room. It's not the elephant in the room. It's the super chat in the room. $5 super chat from Loco, the news god himself. Eric, I just want to make sure we are still friends after coming back from a 50-plus point deficit to beat you last night. This idiot over here, news god, had freaking James Conner, Cooper Kupp, and Matt Stafford going up against my Van Jefferson, and I lost. I was up like 60. I was up 60 at the beginning of that game. It was so brutal. Hey, congratulations, news god. Best of luck. Enjoy your bye this week that you knocked me out of. Hope you feel good about yourself. I have to play Leslie. Leslie's so going to beat me. It's not even funny.
So, by the way, also, the news god should know, Eric was devastated about this in our group chat last night. He was beside himself, and he was not having any of it. Are you guys friends?
Yes, we're still friends. But I'm more upset that the Matt Prater field goal cost me a ton, and I mean a ton of money. It was brutal. I had all Gay in all of my best lineups, and then Prater ends up hitting the field goal to get to 16 as opposed to 14. I'm over on kickers like every slate. That was the one I was supposed to get paid out on, and it didn't happen. I'm devastated from that. I sent that in the group chat too. That was way worse. That was painful. Love you, Loco. Congratulations. Best of luck in the playoffs, the Awesemo League. I'm the 3 seed. You know what that gets you for this week? Not a bye. Not a buy. That's what it doesn't get you. Let's go back to Jock Market here. Who are some plays that we are looking at investing in here on the Jock Market board? Plus, 1,000 of you guys, head over, use promo code Awesemo. Get that free $50. There's no better time than now to be investing in some of these free promotions on sites that are incentivizing you guys to come play. And if this is your first market, $100 you're going to get back. It doesn't get a whole lot better than that. You will not find better offers than that on any other site in the industry. But who are some players based on our pregame IPO phase that you might be looking at investing in tonight?
All right, so let's look at. I mean, if we're talking about pregame, there's only one game that's actually technically in the pregame. So, I mean, we could look at that. Let's look at some of these Nets guys. Who of them are actually available to us? So we have. By the way, David Duke Jr. is available. We only have a fair IPO price for him at $270, though. The asking price is $494. What about Nick Claxton?
He's $7.72.
What do we have?
We had 290. I don't think that those updated because I mean, I think the Brooklyn Nets didn't populate correctly. So we have to make some kind of inferences based on kind of the way that we assess the teams relative to other players. So I'm looking at their projection and, you know, a guy like Claxton, he's going to shoot a high percentage from the field. You know, he's not somebody that's going to be going out and getting a bunch of missed shots, which by the way, are negative 0.5 over on Jock Market. So you want to keep that in mind. That can definitely be detrimental if you're going for a volume score. Definitely going to be more feast and famine over there than they're going to be in a lot of DFS formats. Well, probably a lot in both, but with Nicholas Claxton, 290, his fair IPO number, I've got him projected for 28.5 over on DK today. How many do you have him projected for over there?
I mean, yeah, you would know the ins and outs of negative fantasy points after losing to Loco last night in your matchup. So I'm happy that you pointed out that there are negative fantasy points we had on Jock Market because you are the master of losing fantasy points. Looking at some of these other guys though, DeAndre Ayton right now is projected for a fair IPO price of $12.50. And I assume, let's see, where are people? Yeah, so the asking price on Ayton is only $10.34. We can't do this now because he's still questionable to play. Mm-hmm. If Ayton ends up getting rolled in, I immediately want to go buy shares of DeAndre Ayton because the asking price is too low considering his upside.
I love that.
Oh, I think Curry just hit the 3 because
he did. I just saw that he ended, and then Kevon Looney took a foul so that they could celebrate it in the Garden. That's a pretty fun place to. Yep. I was going to say Jordan Klein, giving the respect to Steph Curry. Whether you like him or hate him, the guy's the best shooter of all time. I don't really want to even start. Yeah, I was going to say I'll do a little Jeter for it. I'll do a little Jeter. I'm happy to. Guy's a stud. He's a just absolute freak. And once Klay Thompson gets back, this basketball team is stupid. So I'm not watching the celebration here right now because I am.
What do you
I am.
What
Good job,
so are you expecting much from Klay Thompson this year?
I'm expecting 25 minutes to 20. I mean, have you seen him in workout videos for the last month? I think he'd be like good to go, but I think he's getting ramped up so that they're just not going to use him until he can play 28 minutes a game, 30 minutes a game.
Yeah, I mean, it's a brutal injury to come back from. It's not to say that he can't contribute, but I don't know that he's going. I think there's a chance he significantly helps the team. I think it's a low probability. We haven't seen him play in 2.5 years. Torn Achilles, torn ACL. It's a lot to come back from. What is Steph Curry crying?
My thing is
now?
Though, you have Steph. Oh, he's crying.
Yeah. What happened? Did he roster Paul George?
Jesus.
Yeah.
Suck it up. That was me making fun of myself. What are you going to do about it, Jordan Klein?
So, you know what's funny? I almost wonder if because I'm trying to figure out if Steph Curry's staying in the game or not now. Oh, he's coming back out. I'm going to say, I wonder if there's some weird narrative here that we weren't even aware of, where it's like, hey, Steph Curry, he's hugging Ray Allen now at center court, where it's a thing where it's like, what if Steph Curry is so overcome with emotion after breaking the record that he has to come out of the game for a little bit?
His parents are getting divorced. He's got bigger shit to worry about. Let's move it on here to the rest of Jock Market. We've got some other guys that we can be looking at here. I definitely like Jordan Klein, like that one a lot. I like Julius Randle still at his $13.79 asking price. Looks like a guy that kind of climbed up our board. $14.80 fair IPO price for Julius Randle. I think he's a really good buy. I mean, we talked about jamming in some of the more like the raw fantasy points here. Julius Randle, our third highest projected player over on Super Draft. Yeah, he's the third guy there, but you're getting him at $1 discount off of what his fair IPO price is. And there is a massive upside. I'm going to be tracking Kevin Durant pretty heavily here. Toronto out to a 6-2 start here. Kevin Durant with a personal foul. If he gets another foul here, I will unequivocally be just buying as many shares of Julius Randle at that $13.79 price tag as I possibly can. What do you think about him as a play today?
Wait, so you're going to be buying Julius Randle if Kevin Durant picks up another foul?
Yeah, because it's more likely that he could finish in the number 1 spot. So because like if Kevin Durant has to be off the floor because of foul trouble, obviously there's other guys that'll be kind of out there. David Duke Jr. with a bucket. That's nice to see. Let's go, dude. Because apparently I'm double the field on him. Had no idea that he was going to be 22% or whatever. But Julius Randle.
Believe in.
What?
Stand for what you believe in. So they have to play Kevin Durant regardless of foul trouble, though. I don't think he comes off the court if he gets 2 personal fouls.
Pascal Siakam 4-2-1 to start off the game. Hot start. He's now up to a $13.41 ask price. People are starting to bid on underneath. I see what you guys are doing. I really like this kind of take that some of the people are putting in more advantageous bids as somebody goes up in production. You can always take your bids off the board too, but I like to kind of get it at a low price as you get there. Be careful though. Pascal Siakam already with one personal foul. You want to be quick on the trigger if you've got shares to be able to get rid of that in the event that he takes another one here. Scotty Barnes, 2 fouls in 7 seconds. That's unfortunate. So if you have Scotty Barnes, I would be trying to get rid of those shares immediately. That was really, really quick. That came out of nowhere.
By the way, also, Steph Curry's still on the court, but he's crying.
He's crying like running on the court?
No, like just while he's playing because of the emotion of the whole moment. I don't know how it's going to affect him for fantasy purposes or whatever, but I do think it's, and he just got a steal immediately. So I guess it doesn't matter all that much. But that aside, in the Nets game, Nets are down, 9-4 right now? Did they take Scotty Barnes, 2 personal fouls.
Wow. All right. Yeah, I said it was like within 7 seconds of each other. Patty Mills for 3. How about my boy Patty Mills? Let's go, dude.
Because I have the Knicks Warriors game up. I'm trying to figure out if Scotty Barnes is coming off the court or not.
No, he's still on the floor. I said he was on the floor. Did I not say
okay.
that?
I wasn't sure if he came out after that though.
Nope, he's still out there chucking, but it's just something to be on high alert for. Obviously, sometimes with 2, they come off the floor. Scotty Barnes being a rookie, they want to just let him go out there and figure it out. Nick Claxton with the dunk. Welcome to the scoreboard, sir. Well, actually, no, he's got 4 and 1. That's beautiful to see. David Duke Jr. with his first foul of the game. I'm just going to be watching all these fouls, and if there's any kind of a chance to really capitalize on Jock Market, it's when somebody has to come off the floor. Yuta Watanabe coming in for Scotty Barnes right now at the 7:58 mark. That was pretty quick. They did give him the yank there after 4 minutes. So Scotty Barnes is off the floor. I would be selling.
Yes. And is Watanabe on Jock Market? Let's see.
Chris Boucher dunk, my dude.
Watanabe asking price of, let's see. So Watanabe
$3.23 right now. $3.23. I would like that right now for Yuta Watanabe. I'm going to actually get a share of him. That seems fun. Or a couple shares. I mean, he's just going to have to play a lot more minutes if there's going to be foul trouble. I mean, Scotty Barnes is one more foul away here in the first half. He comes back on the floor where Yuta Watanabe is going to be playing most of the rest of the way in this first half, no matter what.
Yeah, I bought shares of Watanabe. I think it just makes sense. He's going to have to play extended minutes, as is. If you look at our projections right now, we had him projected for a fair IPO price of $3.60. He was already under that number, and now he's probably going to be playing more minutes.
I just got 3 shares, so there we go. That was quick. Again, it's a quick $10. I'm going to be invested in that, and I think that that's a fun way to do it. And there's a ton of upside there. Another dunk here for Chris Boucher, followed by a foul. So that's kind of a bummer. But shooting foul for him there. That's his first. No big deal. Blake Griffin at the line there. Blake Griffin finally on the scoreboard.
The Warriors did take Steph Curry out so that he could go to the sidelines and spend time with his mom.
Oh, there you go.
So he is.
Are his dad and mom on different sides of the arena? Does anybody know? Do we have boots on the ground?
I don't know. It does appear a lot of people are pretty interested in the ongoings of Steph Curry's mom now. But she's hot.
She's very hot.
She looks so much like Steph Curry. It's very bizarre to me.
She's like an attractive version of Steph Curry and female. So, do
you think she shoots threes?
Probably. I don't know. Dell did. I feel like she was an athlete. I think she was an athlete. I can't remember.
She played volleyball. Actually,
there you go.
Steph Curry's sister went to the same college as me, was on the volleyball team.
Nice. Look at you know stuff. And then created turmoil around the NBA. That was fun.
But I mean, this is something that could actually affect Steph Curry's fantasy projection for today, because it does seem like he's going to play a couple less minutes as a result of this potentially.
What am I? Foul. Everybody hates the way that I say foul. I don't care. I don't care. Foul. There you go. Better. Foul.
Nope.
I'm from the Midwest. It just is what it is. We've had this conversation before. Get over it. It is what it is. It's how we say it in the Midwest. Leave me alone. Okay. We're going to continue on here. Julius Randle, bucket here, starting to get going. Emmanuel quickly for 3, assist from Derrick Rose here. Is it just me or have the Knicks made like everything? Because every time I put that game on for like a quick second, somebody's knocking something down here. Emmanuel quickly, definitely going to be paying attention to him now out on the floor here at the 5:17 mark. What happened? I thought I heard laughing. Never mind. Nope. Just stoic.
Nope.
Stoicism
Nope.
from Greg here.
I'm just watching the games. It wasn't, I mean, in general, in my head, I'm laughing at foul, but no, I didn't. I thought, I'm pretty sure I was just laughing in my head.
Nicholas Claxton, 6-2 to start off the game at 3,100. As we said, you probably want a lot of him. It makes sense to have a lot of him. I cannot believe he's as low owned as what he is. It's just kind of shocking to me, but such is life. Let's look at the rest of the board here. I mean, he is vaulting up. What is Claxton's tag now here? And he was going for $7 and change. He's got to be going for a lot more here now. Let me find him.
Same with David Duke.
944 for Duke for Nicholas Claxton. And then let's take a look at Duke. 687 for him. 9.25 fantasy points over on Jock Market. I don't know. That's still kind of an intriguing number. He could play a crazy amount of minutes here. I think you could probably get a share or two. Let me see if I can get one for a little bit less than the 687. We're flying a little bit blind with that one, but I think relative to like Alec Burks or anybody else like that, I would rather be invested in this, especially with 9.25 fantasy points already.
Yeah, no, I mean, we've seen really strong starts from Claxton, from David Duke. David Duke hit, the 687. That's a little more than I'd want to pay for David Duke, especially considering what can we realistically expect from him from a points per minute perspective. Who knows? So I think we would be buying really high on him at that point. But Claxton, I could still get behind.
I might buy immediately in the event that Kevin Durant gets a second foul. It looks like he's Claxton obviously is getting all of his shots right next to the rim. That's what he does. Patty Mills, he'll turn into a little bit more of a facilitator there. Yuta Watanabe got a block there attributed to him after the fact. Let's go. I love that. So at least we're on the board there with Yuta Watanabe. That's a plus to kind of get there. They called it a block on David Duke's 3-footer. So that was good to see in the stats here afterwards. Yeah, and this is such a big part of playing on Jock Market, reacting to the games live, and plus gives us an opportunity to watch games on the job. That's not the worst thing in the entire world, that they get to kind of encourage us to do that and talk about their product. It's so much fun. That's really my favorite part of about playing on Jock Market is just the buying and selling, the trading, being able to analyze players in the moment as you're going along. I think it's a really fun product from that perspective. I think you guys should all be trying that out because, again, we were able to. Did I expect to be buying shares of Yuta Watanabe coming into this? No, absolutely not. But you react to the game live. Greg and I are both invested, and now it's going to be really fun to be watching this game, cheering for a guy that I probably have 0 shares of in DFS.
Oh, I absolutely have 0 shares of Yuta Watanabe. If I have
191 lineups. Let me look. I might have one.
Let's see. What was he even min price today? He was not.
No idea. I have 0 shares. So
yeah, he's not even min price. He's 3,900 on FanDuel and 36 on DK.
I just wanted to confirm, in case Yuta Watanabe goes for 30 and he ends up in a winning lineup and people call me a liar, that would be bad. We don't want that. That would be very bad. Greg wants that because it would be funny, and Greg wants all funny things that involve.
Yes, that's all I want.
Greg, anybody else that's sticking out to you over on Jock Market here? We got 6 minutes left to go. What might be something that you're looking for in the late night hammer here, maybe with Ayton situation or anything else you want to touch on with Jock Market?
Yeah, so JaVale McGee, who we were talking about how there's negative points for missed shots earlier. You don't have to worry about that with is JaVale McGee. He only takes shots 6 inches from the basket. Mm-hmm. He's a very strong fantasy producer from a Jock Market standpoint. I talked earlier about how I want to buy shares of DeAndre Ayton if he ends up getting ruled in. If he's ruled out, JaVale McGee has an asking price of $595. I would want to be all over that.
Same. I think it makes a lot of sense here. There's guys that are going to be in that starting lineup here too. Landry Shamet, maybe for Phoenix. For me, you're going to have a lot of time to be able to assess how some of these Phoenix guys might look because you're going to have pretty much all the fantasy totals, all the final fantasy totals for every player for 2/3 of the slate. And I think that that's probably not appreciated enough. Like yeah, I don't have Landry Shamet projected for that much. In fact, over on DK today, I have him projected for 20, right at 20.1. Okay. He's sitting there at 3,800 over on DK. He's not going to project out phenomenally well by any means, but if nobody really goes nuts here in this early slate of games, you'll have the final totals to kind of know that if Landry Shamet knocks down a 3-pointer earlier in that game, there's an opportunity that he can really move up the board. So I want to react to some of the final fantasy totals that exist on the board. Maybe a small glimmer of edge that can exist getting to him or Cameron Payne or other guys that can go nuts. What are you smirking about? What's happening in your life?
Oh, I was replying to, so News God wanted to be sure that after I saw your super chat, after I saw his super chat, that I made fun of you a little bit about you sucking at fantasy football. So I'm just following up with him, making sure.
I'm third in a 14-team league. I'm in the freaking playoffs. I don't.
You're only as good as what happened last week, and there's a big old L that you were very upset about in our group chat yesterday. So I'm just following up with News God, and I'm making sure I message him to make sure that Eric has been fairly teased for the super chat he left, because Eric is 0-1 in his last 1 week of fantasy football.
Actually, 3-3, 6 leagues. In the 1 we care about, your own. Okay, there we go. That's very true. Oh, it was a brutal Monday night for old Eric Lindquist. I was favored in 5 of my 6 matchups to just come through and massively win, and I lost 3 of them. It was just disgusting, but nobody cares about that. I care about Jock Market here as well.
No. We care about how bad you are at your fantasy football teams.
Justin Champagne out there playing minutes early on, 2-2 here right now. I can't imagine that's somebody that anybody had, Champagne. Period. Yeah, Champagne, $2.77 asking price. I'm going to add him to the old portfolio because I can't imagine anything better than a Yuta Watanabe and Justin Champagne sweat here tonight on Jock Market. I'm kind of surprised he's out there chucking. Oh, David Duke Jr. with his second foul. Not ideal, but we can recover.
There's a positive. Let's say that maybe you roster some guys who are in foul trouble today. Maybe you lost your fantasy football game last week, but you know where we have you covered? Deposit bonus over at Jock Market. You sign up using the promo code Jock Market, using the promo code Awesemo at Jock Market. You get some of that money back, right, Eric? It doesn't matter. You lose to News God every week in fantasy football, which you might do again in the playoffs. But you sign up using that promo code Awesemo, get some free money in your pocket.
I got nothing. I'm going to just, cry like Steph Curry.
Yeah. Did Steph check back? Oh, Steph just checked back in, by the way.
I don't care. He's a weakling. Weakness leaving the body. Whatever. Guys, that's Jock Market. I've had an absolute blast going through this. Yuta Watanabe and Justin Champagne. What a day. Could not have had a better combination of things kind of go that way. David Duke Jr., block, defensive rebound, bucket, Cam Thomas assist. It's now Cam Thomas season. I know Jordan Klein's excited. He's got the game on, don't you? You've absolutely, yeah. Cam Thomas. Can we get a little bit of the the bow and arrow? I want the bow and arrow with the 3-pointer. You can do it. I don't know how to do it. Don't you have the bow? Yep, there you go.
Oh, he knocked his stupid hat over doing that.
Yeah, it's fine. Back to the Teletubby look.
This could be an issue for the Nets. In their starting lineup, everybody has 1 personal foul. David Duke Jr. 2 personal fouls. That could be problematic in a game where they have 8 players.
That's very, very problematic. Nick Claxton, block Fred VanVleet. No soup for you. Justin Champagne, offensive rebound and a putback. This guy is just breaking the slate. 4 points, 3 boards here for Justin Champagne. Hopefully you guys joined me and got shares over on Jock Market of that guy. Again, these are random options. He's already up to 7, 8 fantasy points that we're looking at here out of him. What does he have? I mean, this is just crazy what we're seeing out of him. This is somebody who's going to vault way up the board. $2.92 is his ask price. He's at $6.75 for fantasy points. That's not attributing the last bucket here. So I'm telling you, go get that right now, Nick Claxton, another tip shot. I mean, he is actually breaking the slate at 8-3 here early in the first quarter here. 10 minutes into this game, absolutely nuts. 6-3-1 for Kevin Durant. I'm not worried about Kevin Durant. Greg, we are at the final end. We are ending at the end of our boarding walk here for Jock Market. Any final words for the people as we get out of here?
Mitchell Robinson just bricked a dunk. Other than that, no. Let's get some good value out of the Nets today, but I still want the Raptors to cover that 8.5 point spread. Other than that, no. I think we've covered everything today.
We have, and it was an absolute blast. Really enjoyed it. Thank you. I like being a good sport here. Hit that like button so that I can recover emotionally from the beatdown I was handed by Loco. Best of luck to everybody in their fantasy football playoffs. And of course, make sure you guys are tuning in to all the great content we have here at Awesemo for NFL and NBA and everything else. Hit subscribe. He's Greg. He's awesome. I'm Eric. I am so mediocre. Okay, later.